Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 183 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast Adjunct series. Folks, we're doing something brand new tonight. We have, if you follow me online on Instagram or whatever, you see me going to the States a reasonable amount and, really trying to dig a bit deeper in the scene there, particularly, it's only been a couple of years I've been out this side and learning a lot about, the Western New York scene and the beers that they get out there. And recently I discovered for myself, obviously these guys have been around, but discovered a brewery out of Dallas, Texas that blew my mind. And I couldn't believe how good this was. And I was like, why hasn't someone told me about this earlier? And that's a huge shout to Chris from Brewed and Bottled for specifically telling me to grab. So I grabbed whatever he had. Super, super impressed. And we connected online. Love everything about these guys. The online presence is amazing. It's just fun, cool, exciting, ridiculous, but also well-made beers. And I'm super excited to be chatting to these guys. I was saying to them, we haven't had a brewery on from Texas aside, unless if you guys have heard the episode with Kelly Meyer about how not to start a brewery, but he had closed his brewery at the time. So this is really cool. Going to get a bit of info about the Texas scene, which I don't know a ton about. So I'm super excited to get into that. So folks, let me get this all set up so I don't mess it up. There we go. Did I press it right? I did. No, I didn't. There we go. All right, guys, please welcome Molly and Matt from, wait. Here it is. Celestial Beerworks in the building. There it is. Looking for the plaque. And boom.
I'm sorry we're covering your books and all that cool stuff on the side.
No, you guys are good. So good to have you both on. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Happy to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. We've listened to many of these podcasts, and we're very grateful to be part and to talk to you kind of in person a little bit.
As close to as we can get.
Yeah, right.
No, I appreciate you guys even checking it out beforehand, which is super cool. So once again, I'm super stoked. Huge fan of I think I only had 2 or 3 beers from Brewed and Bottled. Are you guys familiar with the store I mentioned in
Rochester,
Lewiston, New York? So it's right over the border, north of Buffalo, like 20-30 minutes north of Buffalo.
Okay, yeah, because we've been. Yeah, I'm not familiar with those guys personally.
Okay.
But yeah,
so they must go through the distributor.
Yeah, just when they post or when people get a beer from them, I'm kind of in charge of our social media, so I'll see all these names and it'll kind of click together. But I think when you first reached out to us and said that you'd gotten some beers from there, I was like, oh, I'd just seen that someone had posted something from there. So yeah, we know them kind of from afar a little bit.
From that. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I guess you probably wouldn't know all of them, but that's actually pretty cool research. I hadn't thought of it like that. That you probably find out the licensees that are getting the products through the tags.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess we work with James at One Stop Brew Shop.
Oh, that's why I said Rochester. Yeah, he's a champion.
He's the man.
Yeah.
So he had come down. I guess it was feels like it was a couple years ago, or maybe. And then he had mentioned that he wanted to bring some more beer into New York, and so he's kind of how we've made it to New York, occasionally. So yeah,
gotcha.
Which pretty crazy beer laws. I don't think that this is allowed in Texas, that you can have a bottle shop, but then also distribute beer up there, or he can import beer and then also distribute it.
Taps.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you can't do that. Oh, can you do it here? I think during COVID they changed it. Canada's crazy like that too. Like you couldn't do it. I saw it in Australia for the first time when I went back a few years ago, and I could not believe. No, I saw it in San Diego. Then I saw it in Australia. I'm like, what is going on? This is the coolest experience ever, because you can walk in there, you can start shopping, you can sip and taste everything completely legally and walk around. It was such a fantastic way to kind of get immersed in beer.
Oh yeah. Super cool.
Yeah, it's very cool, and I'm glad you brought up. I forgot about that, because One Stop, they basically do a lot of the importing for the area. So all the cool stuff that we get, because Rochester's an extra hour and a half, so I go occasionally, but not super often, because Buffalo's right there. But he's the reason that we get a lot of fun stuff, because they import it all in. So it was cool to see the excitement. So I hadn't heard of you guys before, and I was just in the fridge, and Chris is the owner, and he was just putting stuff in. He was like, oh, I got this stuff from Celestial in Dallas. I'm like, all right, because it's killer. Just grab it. I'm like, sure. If he specifically went out of his way to tell me. I grabbed it and I was like, God damn. And I'm always a little concerned for the breweries that get distributed, particularly that far from, particularly where you guys are at, just because of handling. I don't know if it's cold chain transport. Often a lot of the stuff gets like, I'm super excited to find it. And then I'm like, 6 weeks old. Like, I don't know. How do you guys, is that like a concern ever for you guys?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like, once it, especially once it leaves like the state, we kind of like, hope it's handled really well and like taken like, as babied a little bit, but the reality is sometimes we don't know exactly, but typically with it, I'm pretty sure that's all cold chained. Like,
they're wonderful. I feel like anytime, hopefully you're getting it in New York, as long as where the beer is distributed, as long as they keep it cold, it's pretty quick. When we package it, they want it like immediately.
I want to say
we'll send it off and then it's cold. He stores it cold. So
those beers are like anywhere from like days, a week, maybe a week from packaging to like a few weeks, because usually we would like coordinate like, all right, everything's getting packaged this week, let's get it up there as fresh as we can. So everything that has made up there has been like super fresh. So which is awesome. We don't distribute much out of Texas, so like that's like a pallet, a few pallets a year going up there. So it's pretty fun in some kegs. So sometimes for the beer festival, and sometimes just I think we have a few fans up there now because of those those few deliveries we've done. So super cool. Didn't think we'd sell much beer in New York, and it's always nice to get to actually meet someone that actually got to have our beer via that process.
And just so cool. I mean, New York, so many states now, but New York is just such a beer like capital, like so many incredible breweries. So just to kind of be there amongst them in the shelves there is pretty exciting for us. So
that's awesome.
Handle it so well.
It's cool to hear it from your side, because I'm saying from the consumer, I'm stoked because I want to try different stuff, and I'm still learning about the New York, because we lived in Montreal for 10 years. So we go to Vermont all the time. And it didn't really, they got some distro stuff or whatever, but I was really there for the local stuff. So now up here, and I didn't know what was good. You come from Vermont, which is one of the best regions in the world. Then I come here and I really thought it was going to suck, but it's been incredible. Like, just because of things like this, like the local stuff is so much better than I ever thought it could be. And then all these fun imports that don't always get to other places. So you guys were one of these really awesome discoveries, and I'll get into why I thought I really found something that people didn't really know about. So I was like super stoked. And then there's you guys have partnered up with some folks next door to us right here. So I'm excited to get into that in a bit. So I probably should have done this straight away. We started yapping. Guys, let's get into this first beer.
All right.
So kicking off with a nice crispy, and you say you don't pronounce the J, right?
So in Polish, so it's a Polish lager, and in Poland, it's pronounced Jerza. In our tap room, we say Jersey. It's pretty, it's
easier.
Jersey or Jersey. And so we're kind of like, it's a little easier for us, our staff, and then certainly the consumers to say. But occasionally people that speak Polish or are familiar with the language will come in and be like, oh, you have Jerza on tap.
And you're like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Tell us about this one. Polish lager isn't something you come across every day.
So this precious gem of a man that I drew on the label is my papa, my dad's dad, who grew up in Poland, was Jewish during the Holocaust, and has a pretty, extremely heavy, very sad story. He was in the Warsaw Ghetto for years, had multiple family members killed, but he escaped during the Warsaw Uprising, and then kind of had this incredible journey where he found his sister that was pretending like she was Christian. They both had pretty light hair. They could pass as non-Jewish people for a little while, and his sister did throughout the Holocaust and throughout the war. And so then they moved and they went to Wrocław after a little while, and he actually worked in the accounting department, but at a brewery there.
So it was, so before the war, it was Breslau, which was like Germany. So after the war, they redrew the borders, and Breslau became Wrocław. So it went from German city to Polish city. And there was a brewery there that was, I don't know how long that brewery had been there, but it was called like Schüttelheiß.
Mhm.
And then basically they were like, well, we have to rename the brewery to something Polish. So
Yeah, and he happened to be working there as a teenager, and I think it was just a contest. Like everyone put in your idea for a name, and we're going to change the name of this brewery. We don't want it to be German anymore. And so he put in the name Piast, which means like a kingdom or dynasty, royalty. And it was chosen. And so if you've ever seen Piast, I feel like every once in a while we'll find it in the States. It's now produced by Carlsberg, I think.
Yeah, Carlsberg still.
How do you spell it?
Piast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Piast.
But just super neat.
Google
Like
it.
he wasn't even a huge beer drinker then. He was just young, had a job there, kind of
Okay.
the math area and accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Was there for a little while. And then we kind of sort of roundabout, really in a special way, we were able to go back to Poland earlier this year in April for the Beer Geek Festival.
Mm-hmm.
That is put on by Stu Mostoff.
Yeah, so Beer Geek Madness is kind of I'd say probably the biggest I'm pretty sure probably the biggest craft beer fest in Poland.
Sure.
And we work with it. We send some beer to Europe and had kind of been following that festival and was like, oh, it'd be really cool to be able to serve beer there one day, and we're able to kind of make the connection with our our importer over there.
Mm-hmm.
So he helped us get into the fest and.
So we were able to go visit kind of on the way to Wrocław, the hop producer, Polish Hops, got to see his farms, plant like a little baby hop with him. And that was really special because we've been importing hops from him at least for a year and a half, 2 years prior.
Yeah, I think we started making this beer in 2022, I'm pretty sure. So we've been making it for a few years. And so the first few times we would just order the hops directly from Poland. So this beer uses, so the idea was we wanted to like honor Jersey, but also kind of wanted to just showcase some Polish hops, which I've never even smelled any before we made this beer. So we kind of did some research and we're like, okay, these are kind of noble, German, Czech kind of hops, like the Polish hops, they're all in the same kind of region. So you get a lot of like, classic, I'd say, much more noble flavors. These hops actually lend a little bit more fruit character. I feel like as the beer ages, but it's kind of but we make it sort of in the style of like an Italian Pilsner. So it's like it's a lot of hops like in the hot side. Cheers. And then we also do and then we dry hop it. We dry hop the beer a little bit, and it's
with the same Polish hops.
Yeah, the same ones. Yeah,
so it's Sibylla, Lubelski, and Marinka that are all from Polish hops.
Yeah, so they're grown in like Lublin. So it's like southeast Poland is like the Yakima Valley of Poland, pretty much. So
okay, that's so cool. Like the Polish hops make this so authentic. So is the, like you said, you made it like an Italian Pilsner. Is this also perhaps reminiscent of a beer you would find, maybe not the dry hop side, obviously, but like a beer you would find in Poland at all?
So like I'd say maybe the big ones not so much, but it seemed like some of the craft lagers we had over there, that had some of these hops had very similar flavors. Like a lot of people, Lubelski is like one of the more popular Polish hops, and
we're talking to. I'm just thinking of those sweet, maybe college age, early 20s boys that we met at the Beer Geek Madness Festival, just Polish guys that came up, and one of them was in tears and like, we haven't tried a Polish beer like this in so many years. The three of us went to high school together and we all remember drinking this beer together and we haven't been able to get it, and you brought it to us to Poland from Texas. And so I feel like little things like that was so special. So I wonder if it was just these hops that maybe some Polish breweries aren't using because they're wanting to use like cooler, sexier hops that are maybe from other areas, and we're kind of celebrating these new cool hops to us,
It was pretty funny to hear like a lot of people like, well, we brought IPA and barrel aged stouts, and like we brought some fruity beers, and then we had, this was the only lager we brought, and people were kind of like, even the Polish brewers like kind of like, Polish lager, it's like, what'd you guys bring that? But it's kind of, there has a good story to it. And then also like, we really love making lagers. I really enjoy them. And just being in Texas, it's hot. It's pretty much summer, 9 months out of the year. So So like, yeah, a light kind of hoppy and something sort of to differentiate like, you know, a lager with like, you know, the hops I definitely would say are not everybody's favorite flavor profile. But I feel like honestly, this beer with a little bit of like light struckness to it gives it like a nice skunkiness, like in the sun, and kind of gives it kind of a cool, you know, more European flair. But but some of the like technical side on it,
Cool.
we do use like there's only one malt company or one maltster in Texas. They're called Tex Malt. So so we're making a Polish lager with Polish hops, but with Texas malt. And it's one of the few we do exclusively with, but it's you know, we tried to pull out the stops on like, you know, try to make a beer that's got a little more malt character, a little more it's super dry. I feel like we really like our lagers like dry and crisp. So but yeah, we use Texas is like it's a Texas Pilsner, a Texas 2-row, and then like a little bit of like a 6-row. So it's like a kind of more of like actually a distiller's malt, but it has a lot of enzymes that help like break down the sugars and makes the beer like or the wort really fermentable. So we get a very dry and then kind of a little good amount of protein in that beer as well. So it's like, you know, lets the hop shine, but has like enough malt character to kind of balance it out a little bit. So yeah.
That's a great explanation. That's exactly what I'm getting. Yeah, it's fantastic. Super like clear. The head was beautiful. Like it's got like some floral earthiness to it. A little touch of almost like I think I'm getting like lemon type of thing going on.
Almost,
and it's a little bit bitter, you know. It's
lemongrass. That's what it is.
Yeah. It's definitely like I feel like this beer kind of morphs from like when we package it to, you know, now. I think we package this beer probably I don't know,
lemongrass. Exactly.
Late summer. So yeah. But it's fun. And then when we got to visit, you know, the guy that owns Polish Hops, the company, they're the only independent like hop. I'd say they're the only hop grower in Poland that sells direct to like directly to breweries. Whereas a lot of the hop growers, I think, just really are working with a lot of these really big breweries over there, like some of the really big brands. But it's cool to visit him because, you know, he has a lot of noble hops. He has a lot of like classic ones, but also had you know, they're working on like modern hops as well. So like, you know, they're doing some breeding and experimenting, and they actually had some really cool, I'd say really like, cool. You know, they definitely would give some of the American hops and, you know, New Zealand, Australian hops, like, you know, they could compete with them a little bit. So
for their money.
Yeah. They're just not growing at as much volume, but it was cool. Very, very fun experience.
That's dope. I love that. I would never have picked that Poland would potentially be the next like hotspot for hops. That's awesome. Did you guys like? Are you able to get some when I guess it's the process, like you said, they're breeding and messing around. It takes some time, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. So when we were there, we were there in April, and that's kind of when they're doing all the planting and like things are like they're getting ready for things to start popping out of the ground, all the hops to start sprouting, and
gotcha.
I guess so yeah, we were able to. His name's Pavel is the owner. I guess he's like third or fourth generation hop grower, and you know he's probably about early 40s. And he let us experiment and like take a hop. He was like wasn't sure if it was male or female. So I guess the males don't produce hops, but the females produce the cones. So I still don't. I think the harvest happened not that long ago, and I've been back and forth with him. I need to see if anything was fruitful out of that.
Because I think he realized. So we planted. It was like a little baby hop plant, and he was like, "If it's female, I'll let you guys know. I'll send you the hops or the cones on it." And we found out it was female, but I mean, anything can happen with hops as we're learning, going up to Yakima and everything. Just that, some don't do as well as others. Don't taste how they expect. You know, for years and.
Yeah, that's true. I think they need a bit of like a run for a bit. Like sometimes you don't always harvest them, or the first harvest sucks, and you got to let it kind of like find its groove. Or maybe it's like grapes type of thing. I think so.
I think it's the same. I think sometimes like the first few maybe years of it growing aren't the best, and then it kind of eventually, you know, matures and gets more maybe what they're looking for from it. So or better yield or better growth and stuff. So
that makes sense. That's fun. That's good to like. I imagine that's probably news to a lot of people watching and listening. So that's awesome. I'm going to keep an eye out for like fire Polish hops now. That's sick. Yeah. You guys will be ahead of that wave.
Hopefully we'll be able to use some other ones.
Yeah, and they're actually, you know, we were able to. I think there's more and more people using them. Like it's like, you know, not a most popular hop, but I think I see breweries experimenting with it here and there. So especially like if you've ever had like a Grozitsky or Grozitska, that's the like smoked wheat beer.
Yeah.
And so actually that I think I saw like last week or like 2 weeks ago, some friends we made in Poland that work with Polish hops, they I think they actually were able to get this style into the Brewers Association, into like the World Beer Cup, like actual like it now has a specific category in that competition, which is cool. And then I think White Labs, the yeast lab in San Diego, they were working with the brewery that like started the style to like actually like isolate their yeast and make it to where you can actually buy that yeast that they use for those for that style. So now it's becoming a little bit easier to kind of at least attempt to make that style like outside of Poland.
Yeah, maybe smoked beers will be the next big thing, and we'll be next time we're talking.
Yeah,
that's all.
The old smoked pod.
And those ones are cool. Like they told us, I think all the like at least the brewery. Is it just what's I forget the name? I forget the name of the brewery, but they're like the original Grozitsky brewer. And basically, I think all of their wheat that they use, it's smoked wheat, but it's malted and smoked in I think in I guess in the Czech Republic, like in I think it's like Czech malt or something like that. Maybe, but anyways, it's really nice, and like the smoke character is not crazy intense like you'd think. Like if you have like a Rausch beer or something else, it's way more subtle and like actually was pretty nice. I thought it was going to be a big smoke bomb, but yeah, it was pretty drinkable. So
subtle smoke can be wicked. There's a brewery up here that does a bunch of like lightly smoked beers, and they're on paper it sounds horrible, but it's fantastic. It's so nice. It's just a pinch. I feel like it works. Yeah, I don't think I've had that that style. I'm sorry, how do you say it again?
Grozitsky.
That's it.
Yeah,
I had it once or twice. It's super uncommon. Like if you see it, I'd probably had like two, maybe. And it's I don't recall the level of smoke, but it's like immediately if I see smoke on it, you're like, I think that's something that people need to grow on. But if they start to realize that like when I say they, like if drinkers realize that hey, smoke doesn't mean campfire bacon, like you know.
Maybe as mezcal is getting more and more popular, I feel like I'm seeing that in more cocktails. Maybe it'll kind of draw people into
great point.
Beers.
That's such a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, it's kind of like we transition across.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. This is such a great lager, and this is cool for me because I think all I had from you guys was IPAs. So it's nice to. I don't know. Tonight we're going to go through a bunch of stuff, so it's cool to see like a breadth of the portfolio. This is fantastic, and even cooler that it's got your grandfather on there, and there's a great story behind it as well, and it's authentic with actual Polish hops. So it's not like, you're calling it a Polish lager and it's just a different malt bill or something.
Yeah,
for sure.
I love it. So let's get into the story, guys. I'm super curious to hear. So as I was saying to you off air, love, first time guests, really love to hear how you both discovered craft beer, like, whether it was, when you were younger or more recently, whatever, and then how that kind of like what that journey was to get to the brewery.
Let's start. So
yeah, sure.
When we met, we were both independently very into craft beer. He was already home brewing. But it's funny when right before we started recording, when you were talking about going to Austin to South by, I think that is the weekend that I had my first, at least in memory, like real craft beer, because we're, like, you're going to South by, some of the shows are free. A lot of the things you're paying a ton for. And so we were like, you know what, we're going to go to a gas station. We're going to get the highest ABV beer we can find, bang for our buck, like drink something really fast and then go. And we don't have to pay a lot at these bars. We were just college students, a couple friends and I had, they don't call it Voodoo Ranger anymore.
Oh,
I think it's
the name.
No, it was Ranger. You should
no.
Ranger.
It was Ranger and now it's Voodoo Ranger. But I had it when it was only Ranger.
West Coast back then. It wasn't
pretty
hazy,
malty, but super hoppy, but like pretty high ABV.
The 7 or 9 in the 7 or 9%, I think. They got different ones. They've turned it into a whole range of stuff.
Like 8 or like 7.
Yeah, it might have been
7. I think it was around the 7. It was like
gotcha.
Not the double. I'm pretty sure.
What was that, like 2009?
Yeah, and I think at that point I was drinking like Bud Light, so I was like, oh my gosh, 6.8. Like, let's go. But yeah, I think after that, I was just like, okay, I really like this beer. Gets the job done. I like IPA. And so I think from then I just, went on to the Stones and drinking all the Arrogant Bastards and the Lagunitas and Sierra Nevada, and kind of where I'm sure a lot of people started their journeys. Green Flash.
Green Flash, yes.
Hell yeah. Green Flash.
Alpine.
West Coast, Alpine. Oh yeah, Alpine was the best.
I think Alpine bought them, didn't they, or the other way around?
They bought Alpine, or I think they started. I think
you're right.
Alpine's like distro beer there, because I feel like Alpine their little pub or their little like smaller spot, but
and they made that Happy Birthday and all that.
Oh, Happy Birthday Duet! I think Duet was my favorite.
Palette Wrecker.
Yeah, Palette Wrecker. Happy Birthday. What was the other one?
Those are the days.
Was there one called Windows Up or something? I feel like there was like
sounds familiar.
Yeah, something.
That was a good time. Okay, that's pretty you were kind of ahead of the game if you were doing that in like 2009 and really getting into it. I feel like that's before the wave, like pretty well before the wave.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as it was like first really like getting started, because I remember really getting excited about it and then being able to find pretty cool stuff everywhere.
Gotcha.
But yeah, certainly before like I think maybe like the social media wave, or at least maybe I didn't like follow beer influencers at that point or breweries yet, or that
don't
kind of
think it exists. I think you're right. I don't think it existed until like mid 2010s type of thing.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I feel like I don't remember seeing like beer Instagram pages until probably 2012, 13.
I think that's fair.
And that was probably like the forefathers. So
right in the game.
I would like give you the hardest time. I'm like, your Instagram feed is so boring. Everything is just beer. Everything, why don't you follow anything else? And then my entire feed now is just beer. Like that's all I follow. So
karma. I love it.
Yeah, I want to say, I think mine, I guess started in college, but it was more like there was one beer store. I mean, besides like the grocery store, but there was one little like craft shop, like kind of like little gas station that just had like. Literally, you could get gas there, and then they had like it was a tiny footprint, but they had like, every beer you could imagine like under the sun. And it was the first place I'd ever been to that was just like wall to wall, like any beer you could think of. Like, so I remember just like going there and starting to kind of work my way through. One of the big ones was, what was in it? Flying Dog. I feel like Flying Dog was like, if you remember, they were out of like Maryland or Delaware. Maryland. Yeah.
I'll check. What was that big beer?
The one that I remember drinking was like Raging Bitch or something like that.
Raging Bitch, Maryland is Maryland. Yeah,
that was the one. It was, I think it was like a triple IPA. I just remember buying it and it was like 10 or 11%, and I never even had an IPA that was like that strong. I just remember like they sold 4 packs of like 12-ounce bottles, and
it's pretty special because now we have Celestial at that little gas station,
the same spot.
Stop.
Yeah, true.
And so it's kind of like special full circle, just like where you started now.
So it pretty much started like I remember that was like sort of working my way through, but I remember that beer being like maybe one of the first ones I could buy. But my brother, like when he graduated college, I was still in high school. I was graduating high school, and he worked for like a beer and wine distributor. So he'd always bring home like Fat Tire and Sierra Nevada, like pale ale, but I was like 18 and I didn't really quite have a palate for bitterness quite like that. So I remember like trying them, being like, I don't know, like not my favorite. And then slowly like became those. I love those beers. A few years later, but basically started like going to breweries. There weren't that many breweries in DFW or in Dallas Fort Worth area. There was maybe like 3 that you could actually tour, probably around 2010.
Who were the OGs in Dallas?
So, I mean, really the OGs
Deep Ellum or something?
So Deep Ellum was up there. There's a brewery called Petacolis. There's one called RAR. Worth. And then I want to say really the craft beer scene kind of started in like 2009 to 2009, 2008.
Yeah, it was very slow to start. And then I feel like kind of like the rest of the country, and I'm sure world, it just like hit and then popping up everywhere.
Yeah. So it was cool. I remember like I was in school, and on the weekends we go tour a couple of them, and then slowly. So I studied engineering, and I was like always obsessed with process and like heavy machinery and tanks and stainless steel. So I was immediately like interested in just like how's it made? What's the like I liked the finished product, but I'm kind of really was more curious about the process and stuff. So finished college, and then I think my first like real paycheck, I bought like a homebrew kit and started homebrewing. So that was I think 2011. So like summer of 2011, and then
Okay.
It was pretty funny. So we met on Tinder, a romantic way to meet.
Yeah.
But I remember, I mean, when you're on online dating, you know, you're seeing the same guys post the same things. Every other guy's like, oh, craft beer, I like craft beer. And I was like, oh, as if, like, they don't know anything about craft beer. And I remember meeting him.
I hate craft beer.
And like the fact that you actually knew anything about it and were home brewing. And when I visited his house for the first time, he just, I mean, what seemed like gigantic tanks at that time, but like,
yeah, it was pretty bad.
Huge homebrew system, like all in his living room,
multiple fridges.
Okay, he really likes
me and my friends had I had like a
setup.
Yeah. We were making a lot. There was little homebrew festivals kind of in Dallas and in the area. So it was in like where I lived in. So I went to like UNT, University of North Texas. So it's in Denton. So it's like basically an hour north of Dallas, and it was more of like a liberal arts school, and like lots of music. Like everybody played music. So a big thing, like whenever I feel like I was decent enough at homebrewing. We were using kegs that we would make a lot of beer for like these little house concerts or like house shows where like some bands would play. We'd have some beer there. And yeah, it was fun. So
get live feedback from drunken college students.
For sure. Yeah. It was,
it was
a good time. And
distinguished palates.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah. They knew all the nuances of it. So, but I want to say, basically from there to, I guess, when we met, kind of really just started to get more serious about it, like trying to just dial in, like, how to make these homebrew beers not taste like homebrew and actually taste like, a beer you'd buy. And that definitely took some practice and took some, figuring out. It's really hard to make like a really good IPA at home on like a homebrew setup that doesn't become oxidized or something like that. So
cardboard.
Yeah. Plastic. So starting to dial in
a blanket.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, getting away from that, and then pretty much, I want to say homebrewed for like the first like year we were, or I guess right before we got married. I was just homebrewing, and then I think I signed up for a brewing school, actually in Vermont. So it's in Middlebury, but it's called the American Brewers Guild.
Huh.
So it's, if you've ever had the beer
really
from
close to Burlington.
It's pretty close to Burlington.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know Middlebury. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
really
the
little,
brewery,
tiny, precious.
I'm trying to take a look. Yeah.
It was like based out of Drop-In Brewery.
Middlebury Drop-In Brewery. Are they still around?
I think so. I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah, but it's an online program that's 6-ish months a year.
So you do like 6 months remote, and then
you go there for like a really intensive,
like a week, like a lot of hands-on training, and I think so that was the program I did. I think they do a few other ones too, where I think you can go there for like a month at a time, and just like some guys that are able to like do the full immersive program could do that, but
Gotcha.
So he's doing that. And I think at the same time as you were still in the online portion, he got a job brewing for Malai Kitchen, which is like a Thai Vietnamese fusion restaurant, but that also had a little mini brewery.
Yeah, it was a brew pub. It was just but it was basically a homebrew brew pub. Like they didn't have a tiny setup, but this place they had amazing food. Yeah, Thai Vietnamese food, and they wanted to make like Thai Vietnamese beers. Yeah, they're still open. If you do come to Dallas, I highly recommend going there.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Yeah, when they were basically looking for a brewer, and they were opening another restaurant and trying to make all the beer for both restaurants, and not a huge scale, but it was like, it sounded like a cool opportunity. Like we'd already been going to that restaurant and like loved the food, and so I basically just applied, got the job, and worked there for 2 years as they opened another restaurant, and we went from basically brewing, I think like 20-gallon batches up to, we eventually made it to about 3 barrels, 100 gallons or so at a time. So
but it was cool. He was able to not only like help them grow and expand, but kind of learn how to build certain things. And with his engineering background, he was able to. I think they really had you build it.
I mean, basically, they were just like, hey, I think they would like, we went from like not having like say temperature controlled fermentations, and like not having a lot of like equipment you need to make beer the right way. So basically I would just be like, hey, this is what we need, and like kind of give them a proposal, like, all right, we need this equipment, like if you guys can afford it, and as you're opening more restaurants, we're gonna have to scale it. So yeah, it was able to kind of like, get used to brewing daily, but also kind of learn about, how to build some of these, like a glycol system to like keep the tanks cold,
And it was cool because
other brewery stuff.
So they had very specific beers like the Bia Vietnamese rice lager, a Thai IPA. But they also gave him kind of, it's called like Taiwan on.
Yeah, we had like a rotator tap.
Yeah. And so hazies were not a thing in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay.
Really, maybe, I don't even know in Texas.
What year was this?
At that point.
So that was like 2015. No, 2016, 17. I don't think 16. I really started making hazies until 2017.
No, yeah. I went to 2018 at South by, we were talking about earlier, and it was fucking nearly impossible to find haze. And I was vexed.
Yeah,
All I wanted was haze, but
yeah.
I found some eventually. It was really hard to get.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much, so I started there at the beginning of 2016.
Okay.
Basically just kind of like tested some things, but
yeah. And so he started using this kind of rotator tap to brew hazies. And I think the people that were the beer nerds that were already kind of importing in, or not importing, but like trading beers and already sort of knew that style, even though it wasn't prevalent in or around at all in DFW. They started going Malai, and they were like, it was just so funny. The restaurant that had been a bunch of families and like date nights, regular restaurant clientele became like all these men just like around the bar. Every single table was just like a bunch of like bearded burly men that were coming and like drinking all of them.
It'd be like lunch. It'd be like lunchtime. Like no one was drinking beer on lunch, and then lunch the bar would be full. And then like
all the bartenders were really confused, like kept pouring out the hazy, like didn't understand, like something's wrong with this beer.
Well,
like,
there was a lot of education. Like basically we had like relatively clear beers. I mean, for what we could do. And so remember whenever I started making hazies, I had to like kind of explain to all the managers at all the restaurants and the owners, like, hey, these beers are hazy. They're not like chunky, like the haze is part of the process. And like
it's intended.
Yeah, so there was some educating there. We used to do growlers and stuff, and I had to tell everyone like we cannot do growlers of these. We're making such small batches, so we'd kind of fight with people wanting to buy it to go, but we didn't have a very good system of filling growlers, and then people
die quick too.
People eventually slamming too many beers at the bar, because they're like
car wrecks after but it was because we knew at this point
worth it.
that we wanted to open up a brewery. And we thought like, okay, hazies are probably the new frontier. This is what we like. He likes brewing, what we like drinking.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to kind of see like, okay, the people in this area are responding to it. They really like it, and kind of test it out before we had to like actually.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because it kind of gave us, we didn't know we wanted to open up making hazies really. Like it was sort of, I think I had such a simple platform with like some freedom, and I could see in our market there weren't a lot of people like attempting to do hazies, or there was like it was like a very like divisive beer style when it came out, where a lot of people were like, oh, it's not traditional, haze is cheating, like those are half-assed beers, all this stuff. And I remember just being like, well, I'll try it. Like I there wasn't honestly a lot of resources out there when I started brewing them.
I bet.
It was sort of like, kind of looking into it and kind of interpreting it like how I think it would work, and then trial and erroring, doing some trial and error, and then finally, landing on one that like people really responded with, and then basically just kind of expanding off that like initial success of those certain a couple of these beers that I put out, and it was cool. And then we kind of saw like, oh my gosh, people are going crazy. Even the owners of the restaurant were like, we have to make more. I was like, we don't have enough tanks. It was pretty funny.
On that note, I heard you crack the can, so I think it's time for the next one. We'll put a quick pause on there. Let's do the next. We're doing the double, yeah?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Speaking of haze.
Speaking of haze.
What's a double called? Ringback, right?
This one's ringback tone.
There we go. Got him.
Yeah.
Love this here. Speaking of that, it was hearing you talk about... Sorry, Molly?
Yours shows up a lot better than when I try to hold it up.
I have a camera.
It's funny, after we named this ringback tone, there was kind of a argument or debate between some of the staff members if a ringback tone was the ringtone that you bought where you would hear it when someone would call, or if it's what you hear when you call your friends, which I don't know if that was
It's that one. I
Yes.
remember that in Australia in like 2000 type of thing.
Yeah, it was like so cool. You bought your ringtone for $1, $2, and yeah, your friends would
And
hear
then
it.
people called you.
Yeah.
I totally forgot that even existed. That's such a throwback. That's so funny.
Mhm.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
for the Gen Z kids listening or watching who have no idea what we're talking about, if you called somebody instead of just hearing ring ring, you could set so it would have music. And usually, wasn't it like shitty polyphonic? You know how it was like almost like a karaoke version of a song?
Yeah. I feel like,
Honestly,
I think towards the end
Yeah.
of it, I think as it advanced, I think eventually
They got good.
Yeah, I want to say it became like it sounded like a lot better quality, but yeah.
that's really
What
funny.
a throwback! I just couldn't. I wouldn't. How did you guys come up with that name, by the way? Before we talk about the beer, because that's impeccable.
Honestly,
Like-
I have a very long list on my phone. I think like hundreds of just anytime we're watching
Just cool names.
a podcast, of just like, oh, this would be a good beer name.
Oh,
Our
that's so
staff, I
smart.
feel like every once in a while people come up, like even guests will give us an idea. I honestly, this was on my list when we were making this beer. I have no idea. Maybe I was watching some old 90s movie or early 2000s movie or something and it popped up. But yeah, honestly, I don't know. But I do feel like
I love
anytime you do something a little nostalgic, it seems to resonate with people and get them a little bit more excited about it. So anytime you can do that, it's good.
Completely not surprised at all. I feel like nostalgia is like the number one thing right now.
Oh yeah.
Now this bad boy looks like it's got Manteca, Mosaic, and Citra.
Mhm.
Correct.
8%. Nice and haze.
Mhm.
Let's- folks,
Yeah.
get that in you. Cheers.
Mhm.
Cheers.
Ooh, great juicy nose.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
Hell yeah.
I'd say we definitely do a hefty dosing on the dry hop. Always, I feel like half the my favorite part of these beers is just like the aroma. Let's see, the aroma out of the can sometimes is a little more like concentrated, but yeah, just so we let's see, as far as like the base beer goes, I love Pilsner malt, so I'd say most of our hazies are, majority of the base is Pilsner malt, and then we kind of go back and forth. We always use malted wheat, but then we sometimes go exclusively flaked oats, or sometimes flaked wheat, or a combo of two. But this one, I'm pretty sure, pretty positive this one was, Pilsner malt, malted wheat, and flaked wheat. So we've had really nice results with that. I just like that it's
It always
smooth.
makes it very like velvety, kind of soft on your palate.
Yeah.
Yeah, lets those hops
super
shine,
velvety.
like tropical mango, tangerine, fruit cup kind of juice.
Yeah, so kind of just build like a really simple, like non-obstructive base beer malt build, and then as far as like the way we like kettle hop, I mean it's definitely a heavy like whirlpool, like a sprinkle of hops like in the boil, but like not enough to be really perceivable as bitter or anything like that, and then a heavy whirlpool, and then we, or not too heavy a whirlpool. I'd say like a mild whirlpool dosage, and then our dry hops is kind of where I think that's where the magic happens with a lot of our beers. Is just we keep it pretty simple. I think our process is like we don't overthink it, and just allows like the hops to really express themselves the way we kind of approach IPA. So without being too loud, every now and then we might go a little crazy and add a little more than we should, but I feel like this is a good balanced double IPA. So
definitely agreed. It's not too sweet. I feel like it's got that New Zealand, like the Manteca, that New Zealand hot punch, but with the good PNW classics in there, Mosaic, Citra, I guess can never ever make a shit beer with that.
Yeah.
The body is fan. I really feel like what I've noticed from you guys is the body. Like coming back to that wheat earlier, you were just saying like it's just. I really feel like that's like a big part of it that really carries because I feel like if you don't, body's the one thing I think differentiates the phenomenal haze from the decent haze. Like I don't know if you guys agree. Just I feel like it gives it a bit better canvas for the hops to express themselves a little more.
Yeah,
and I love the way you guys now had another haze. Like I feel like I'm seeing the trend across the board here. There's something that carries really well.
Yeah, and with ours too, like we try not to make them too sweet either. Like we definitely want them. I like them. So I think ours sometimes, may measure a little drier than they taste, so it's like between like the hops and then the malt combo, like I think like, yeah, you get a good like mouthfeel without being like just a sweet, without having that sweet finish and things like that. So like it's, yeah, to me, it makes it a little more drinkable than sometimes those ones that are just like big sugar bombs. So, which we've made some of those before too. So
nothing wrong with them. Yeah. It's good to have a bit of everything. Would you guys say that this is reflective of is this a pretty good representation of kind of like the haze, whether, from the single, double kind of vibes that Celestial makes as of now?
Yeah, yes. For sure.
Yeah. I feel like all of your beers kind of have that soft velvetyness, but they always so I'm the one who writes the descriptions.
Tasting notes. I've been looking at that as we're talking. They're very helpful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course, anytime. But I just rack my brain because I feel like anytime it's a Celestial, sure, the hops change, the malt bill changes a little bit, but I feel like the way Matt brews always has this distinct, like, candied dried fruit, always a little bit of like some kind of like pineapple or tangerine, like gummy, and then like fresh tropical fruit. And so I always have to like, okay, we got to dig in deeper. And yeah, this one's a little more mango than pineapple.
No, it's because we're putting all that candy and fruit in there. Like we don't use that many hops. It's mostly gummies and
but I would say this one very much is like a Celestial beer. So yeah, we wanted to send this one out, just very like emblematic of kind of the way you brew.
And I was gonna say I feel like with the doubles, I think this is pretty much I'd say a good representation of a double IPA we'd make. Like sometimes if we're doing, say, a collab or something where we want to try a new hop product or something, we may like dial back. We may like introduce like change our process a little bit, or use, there's a lot of these fancy products out there now that, we try to debunk if they actually work, or if or how best to use them and stuff like that. So I can tell you this one is just a classic, just like all regular like T90 hops, no cryo, no concentrates or anything like that. So just a really, actually, maybe I lied. Actually might be some cryo in this one. Sometimes I think this one actually we did do, maybe I'm getting the other beer confused.
You are. This one
doesn't. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. No cryo. We make a lot of IPAs. So every now and then.
Bro, I would never expect any brewer to remember their recipes at this point. It's like with the amount that is required of a brewery of your caliber to pump out, like it's not humanly possible to keep that in your head, so don't sweat it. The other beer I was trying, as you were talking, I was trying to find the other ones I had. I found I had Stellar Remnants at 7%. That one was filet. Oh, and Molly's your favorite beer.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Design
across the board. No beer. I mean,
favorite beer.
Galaxy. That one we've been making that one since like 2019.
So classic. It's just so drinkable.
From the beginning. Yeah.
Fresh. Like, I love that one.
Yeah.
That was a great one to push out to market. Sorry, Matt, go on. I cut you off.
Oh no, it's just that's one of our favorite single IPAs we make, I think. So
and we don't really have any flagship beers that we have all the time, but we do have beers that kind of like resonate a little bit more with people that we'll bring back periodically. So I feel like we brew that maybe twice a year or so ish. Yeah.
Well, that's fun. I like that. I love obviously the one-offs are always hella fun as a drink. And I imagine for you guys as well, like, creating the art and actually creating this beer, it's like it's a new product. But I think there's something to be said about beers that you bring back and you can tweak and improve. You're like, oh, wow, like last time was great, but what if we do this?
Oh yeah,
and you make it better, and then it's better and better, and I kind of like that, like occasional. And then when it comes back again, and you're like, oh man, this batch is fucking killer, and then people are like excited about drinking the same beer, which is actually a challenge in the haze world to get people to buy the same thing multiple times.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, we see that too, where it's new sells, and sometimes we bring something back, and it may not get the new Celestial drinker to try it, but it will usually bring out the OG supporters that are like, oh, I loved a beer called Double Stars. It's probably maybe one of our like first double IPAs, maybe the first double IPA we canned, or one of the first ones. And it's definitely like a Idaho 7 and like Vic Secret, like hop forward bomb. And
hell yeah.
And it's we actually haven't made it in a little while. We need to bring it back.
But it is funny. at first we didn't distro. I think the first year to 2 years at all. We're just kind of like, the way Celestial is going to work is people are going to come to us and we're this little tap room, but we're very colorful and funky. And we want people to experience our beers surrounded by our environment. And then kind of the world changed, obviously, as we know. And so we had to push distro out way more than we expected, thinking it would maybe be a little bit more temporary. And then kind of just, as I'm sure everyone's seeing the beer industry right now, I'd be surprised if any breweries are really supporting themselves on just the tap room. It's kind of like you have to get yourself out there a little bit more. But we've been seeing, we're in a few grocery stores now, and we're like, okay, when we're in a grocery store, we're going to have to kind of change the way Celestial is, and we're going to have to sit on a few flagships and kind of bring back the double stars, bring back these beers. And we've seen that it's the opposite, at least in the 3 grocery stores in Dallas area that we've been in. But yeah, it will not sell even like to the grocery stores. They're like, no, people don't want the same Celestial they had last week. They want a new thing. And so, yeah, for a second we were like, okay, we'll brew twice in a row. And they're like, no, this doesn't work. So yeah, we still
have to crank out a lot of new stuff, and just kind of sprinkle in, let's say every 5 batches, maybe, or let's say every 5 new beers, we can bring a repeat pack or something like that. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I love that. Let's swing back to the story to finish that bad boy off. So we were in the restaurant. You're making the hazies in like 2015, 16, 17, killing the game in a state where they hadn't quite taken off. You're clearly attracting that niche haze market where people are dangerously drinking because they can't get any to go.
Yeah.
Let's pick up from there.
Pretty much from there. Yeah. So let's say, I think by the time the hazy IPA started really like picking up at that restaurant, that was when we were sort of maybe like figuring out financing and figuring out like a lease on a property and trying to make the next step. Like the goal was just to kind of like use that opportunity at the brew pub as like a launching point to get Celestial open. So we were kind of, the whole time I was doing that, we were also starting a family, we had our daughter right around the time, I guess that was 2016. And then pretty much just slowly figuring out the business side of stuff. And so yeah, we looked at a lot of buildings in Dallas. We wanted to be in the city just to be like
a Dallas brewery, not like a suburbs. So we found our current location that was really, really trashy. Still kind of,
it was pretty, nobody was going to rent that building.
Super rundown, really, really bad. Like
okay.
And plants growing into the walls.
It just needed a lot of work.
It needed a lot of love. And so we got it for a very good price, even though it's in a pretty good location. Like
okay, so north, west of the city.
Yeah. And like pretty central,
close to an airport.
Close to airport, close to our DART.
It is. What's the area called?
It's called the
Oaklawn?
Medical District.
It's close to Oaklawn, but like medical district where
I see.
So it'd be like up to downtown, uptown medical district kind of way it flows there.
So we're just great price on this kind of little space that the landlord didn't really care much about. So she's like, yeah, you can dig up the floor, put in trench drains, hook up light ball. Like she was fine with whatever.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a godsend. I think for a while we were kind of hoping that Malai, the restaurant that he was working at, we could somehow contract brew their beer there. And I think they weren't thrilled about that option. And so we're just like, you know what, we're going to have to, I think he trained the next brewer. We made a clean break.
Oh yeah.
Keeping really good relations with them. We still go all the time.
But yeah,
a lot of the beer nerds that were super excited about Matt's beer came out, helped us with demo day,
projects and stuff,
paint the walls and break down things. And but it was pretty relatively fast moving project.
So it was like, I'm going to say it started March 2018. We opened on Halloween of 2018. So our grand
that's going to be a record.
Yeah, it was. We thought it would be faster, but it was a solid 6 months. To get it rolling, but it was it was a lot of work. I mean, basically, I kind of, by the time we were about to open, I hadn't brewed beer in like 6 months, and I also had never brewed at that scale. We were brewing 10 barrels, so we were brewing. Are you a hectoliter? What are you on the metric system or
Hex? The metric, but I'm relatively Barrels, I'm relatively familiar with that too.
Yeah, so we were brewing like 8 hex or something like that. So we're 10 barrels, maybe 8.5 hex or something like that.
So not massive, but pretty
massive.
like reasonable.
Yeah, but
massive compared to I guess what you were brewing before. But
so I remember it was just like, take off the construction hat and then try to scale up brewing. So I think our first few batches were a good learning experience. Hops did not scale as I had planned so maybe we had a few bitter hazies for our first one.
And it's just funny looking back because I feel like people are across the board just so excited because, again, even when we opened Celestial, so few places were making hazies. But when I go and look back at the pictures, I'm like, oh, they're a little more orangish.
Yeah, we weren't
than
really.
I expected.
We weren't really using Pilsner malt. We were trying to use some English malts, and I'd say maybe a little more of the Trillium approach. I feel like they always had a more like orange haze than like necessarily a really pale color. I feel like that has become more prevalent since not that I think they did have some, but I feel like a lot of their
I know what you mean. Treehouse too. I always felt like Treehouse was more like in my head. You guys would probably know better. Like Trillium with that kind of a little more paler, but a little more tropical and bright, whereas Treehouse had that dank citrusy thing going on a little more. Maybe I'm mixing up the colors, but I know exactly what you mean because at that time it was a total different. It doesn't seem that long ago, but like you're saying,
and totally. I feel like every year things have just gotten more and more pale and more like. Yeah, and I've seen some hazies. I wish I could picture the name. I feel like I've sent you some screenshots.
Oh, there's some guys.
They look like milk. Like they are white. They are not even yellow anymore. Like, what malt are you using to get just like white hazies? It's insane.
Yeah,
pretty wild.
A bit much.
But that was sort of how, like, when I was still making hazies and we wouldn't do growlers. There was a bunch of regulars that would come in and trade beers at the pub, and I would fill them growlers because I'd be like, all right, I'll give you guys like, a few growlers, but they would give me like other half Treehouse, Trillium. Cause I wasn't much of a beer trader. So that was sort of my R&D to be like, okay, like, let's see, like I've never had any of those. Let's see, like, how, do the ones I hold up and are they in the ballpark of like what people think a hazy should be? So it was pretty cool. I felt like maybe we aligned more with other half than other breweries. I feel like they were always one of my favorites. But we opened on Halloween, and then we didn't have a canning line when we opened. We were just doing like 32-ounce crowlers and draft and crowlering way too much. And then I think a few months in, like there was another brewery in town that was selling like a canning line, like a really simple one. But we ended up buying that from them, and
we're just like thanking our lucky stars that we did that because cans did well. But just when COVID hit, we're like, what would we have done if we didn't have a canning line?
Oh yeah,
I mean, crowler
32 mobile canning.
There was some in our market. Yeah,
I don't know if it exists more, but
COVID kind of killed it. Honestly, the ones after COVID, everybody bought a canning line. So if they didn't have one, they definitely bought one after the pandemic. Or during the pandemic. So,
but it was funny. Like, I think 3-4 other breweries in the area didn't have canning lines, and so they were like trucking their kegs over to us.
Like our canning line was actually Canadian. It's so it's actually cask. So they're out of Alberta. So it's Alberta. The cask is like the original, like craft canning manufacturer. They've been making, I want to say since like maybe late 80s, early 90s. But so we had one of their like entry level canning lines, and then flash forward to now, we have like a more production focused system, and we have we stuck with them because I think they make really good canning lines. But we went from doing about 8 cans a minute on our other one to now we can do like about 30 16-ounce cans a minute. So so
fast for us.
But we were able to kind of we were just brewing a little bit of beer. I want to say back then until we opened, it was like I feel like we'd have a couple new releases a week, like maybe on Friday. We kind of had like the system down, and then I want to say we were starting to fill barrels. I'd never even filled a bourbon barrel in my life. I'd never, I brewed stouts, but I'd never so that was a steep learning curve to figure out IPAs at the scale we were doing it. And then also I feel like everybody had a really tighter requirement for barrel aged stouts, out the gate. Like people want these big boys. And I'm like, oh shoot, I've never even really with a bourbon barrel. So that was so there was a lot of learning. I see the first few years were a ton of learning, just trial and error, learning what works, trying to figure out how to make sure the beers stay fresh. And I'd say it still is a constant effort, but yeah, I think we've hit a stride with like pretty confident in like our processes, and they seem to help keep people excited about the beers, and like we're happy with them. We're always tweaking things a little bit, but for the most part, keep it simple. So
yeah, and I feel
I
like
love
we're
it.
learning a lot about maybe beer production in the beginning, and now we're learning a lot about taproom management, how to get people in. Like, I just think breweries that opened around the time we did, we just never had to worry about like people came out in droves and new brewery was so cool. Like, we just didn't even for a second think like we'll have to like have. I mean, I've always had a bunch of events and weekly, monthly, like yearly kind of like silly events, but we always just did it as kind of a supplemental like fun thing. And now we're kind of like, oh my gosh, we have to have these things to get people to come out of their houses and to get people, they might not be excited about an actual beer, but if they come for trivia or an adult science fair or a field day or whatever, then they'll have the beer and be like, oh, this is really good. And so it's just like a whole different way of thinking.
like it's still like, so people still are like maybe confused, or like still kind of like maybe the general public is still like not fully embrace some of the maybe I feel like we're kind of an aggressive local brewery where we're doing a lot of, we have a lot of, I mean, definitely more IPAs than most guys have on tap.
I bet.
We play around with some interesting ingredients. I mean, everybody's doing different things, but I feel like maybe if you came in like, I just want a beer, like they may be like, what the heck, there's something, I don't know what any of these flavors are.
Normal beers.
Yeah,
give me a normal beer. That's so funny you said that. We had my girlfriend Tiffany, who co-founded the podcast. Her family's from Jamaican, but they live in England. Her cousin came out here and we took him to a bunch of breweries. She's like, can I just get a normal beer? And it was one of the funniest things we bring up to this day. So it's very funny you said that. Because I can understand people walking into this place. On that note, though, like in 2018, like I said, that's when I was in Texas. Obviously, before you guys opened, it was March, was South by, and you guys opened in October. What Texas reminded me of back then, without going now, was Michigan. Michigan were but they were like, this is kind of more my question. Michigan felt like they were pushing against haze. Like anytime I went to a festival, which was one of my favorite ones in Michigan, there was one brewery called Old Nation making haze at the time. Nobody else. And it was great. And I still had it to this day. It's still great. A lot more breweries do haze now. All the ones that fronted on it do it now. But they were very like, we don't do that stuff. We're not, we're not into that. Texas, to me, I was looking this up the other day, strangely enough. I think it was just a coincidence, but there was a beer bar in Austin that I went to that's now closed. I forgot the name. It started with P. Does that sound familiar? There was something downtown. That's when I found a bunch of some haze, but it felt very difficult to find it. And my take at the time was Texas is like Michigan. Like, we don't fuck with haze. It's not really our thing. So
yeah, I'd say
was it just that I was in the wrong places probably? And
back then, I'm thinking, 2018, the only like steady haze producer in Austin was Pine House Pizza, and I don't know if you ever had Pine House, but I had them, but they were so small. I mean, you could only get it at their pubs, and they were like, I think they were sold out half the time. Like, they didn't really have much to go. Like now it's a different store, different world. They're crushing it.
And I'm just thinking, of that. One of the Texas Craft Brewers Guild events. So they have a yearly guild meeting convention, whereas many of the brewers that can get together, people that work in breweries, will meet up in one Texas city and kind of like have little convention talks.
Yeah, like a conference and stuff. Yeah,
conference. But they had one talk or one session on haze, and so it was like Matt, one of the guys from Pint House, a friend of ours from the DFW area, Alex from Turning Point, and someone else. But it was funny because it was still pretty in the new world of haze in Texas. And I remember the MC guy, before it started, like asking some kind of like tongue-in-cheek question, like, oh, are any of you guys, I mean, it was a packed house. Like, people were interested, even if they were kind of like pushing against it.
Yeah.
But they were like, he asked something like, oh, are any of you guys going to do haze? Or do you think haze is a real beer? And like, something like all the hands went up, like, no, we don't believe in haze. Like, we don't think it's going to be the new frontier or whatever. Like, it's just a trend. And like, I think the first question, because it was more of a Q&A, just like ask these guys,
Yeah,
like how it
was
works.
open.
And,
It was like a discussion panel. Or
yeah,
like,
and one of the guys, like, first question was like, where's the Hayes farm? And like the next one, like, oh, do you use flour to make your hair? Like, kind of like mocking it. Like,
It was
you guys, like,
yeah.
it is such a good style. I feel like for a long time it had this.
It was a stigma. I think it just
I
think
like
it just people didn't like
beer. It's a if people only knew, if they try to brew it, it's very difficult beer.
It's probably
style
the
to brew.
Well, yeah,
IPA for a lot of people too. It's like but it was.
But no, we saw that a lot, and I feel like it's not like that pretty much at all.
Anymore.
I would say most breweries.
Yeah, everybody's
would do haze now, right?
For sure.
So, with real quick on the side note, it was called Craft Pride. Was the bar I went to?
Oh yeah,
closed.
Yeah.
They're not open anymore.
Yeah, they closed in 2021. I was looking it up the other day. I think it came. I can't even remember why. I was looking it up, and I wanted to find out what it was and what haze that I had, and that's when I had the new Braunfels. Do you know what it was? When I was trying to tell you, actually, Molly, what brewery? Because you were like, "Oh, what Texas brewery had you had on the pod?" And it was Kelly, and Kelly used to own New Braunfels, and I forgot the name.
Hazy.
Yeah, so it wasn't a hazy from him because he did a lot of the barrel-aged sour. So I had that, but I had a haze from somebody, which now I forget what it was. Probably that Pine House Pizza. That's why I know.
Honestly, it probably was. There was a beer called like Electric Jellyfish. That's like their flagship.
I think that was it.
That could have been it because I would say that was the
almost
only
guaranteed
IPA back then. You could get hazy. You could probably get from
at a bar
in Austin.
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So you guys were so deeply ahead of the curve then, based on I'm just a tourist in another, well, not Dallas, but close by. With also when I went out with my boy in Dallas, I couldn't even get High Ally at a bar. Like they were like they'd sold out. And and everything he gave me was this old school West Coast shit. And at 2018, I was like, bro, I've done that. I'm over it. Give me some. I was so annoyed.
To make it to the grocery store shelves, or to bars, it took a while. Too, so.
I went to a Total Wine. It was my first time in a Total Wine, obviously. I don't know if you guys have been to Canada, but we do not have places like that. It's like Costco of beer. And I bought a bunch of haze. I don't recall the names of the breweries, but off the shelf because they weren't in the fridge. They weren't kept in the fridge.
Oh yeah,
they were not. No, they were not great. Even in 2018 standards. But so really, what I'm coming down to is that you guys were truly ahead of the curve for the region at the time. And it sounds like that you'd already had success, obviously, with the restaurant, making the style there, and people who were bringing you guys like Other Half of Monkish and like all that stuff they were like, all right, this is some great stuff. So like, was it a bit of a challenge to get people on board? I know we were joking about give me a normal beer, but like, how well, I guess maybe the better question was how long did it take from when you opened to sort of maybe until did you start to see haze be accepted at the very least within Dallas? Did you guys notice a time where, oh, now you're all doing it? We were one of the only ones doing it. Now you're all, did you see that?
Yeah, because I would say, so our friends opened, I want to say like right when we started construction, our buddies at Turning Point. If you ever had any of their beer, they're like in neighbor town next to us, in between like Dallas and Fort Worth, in Bedford, and so those guys were actually building their brewery whenever I was still working at the kitchen. So they would come in for lunch, have some hazies. We became friends.
Hell yeah.
And then we were kind of like, I was like, I would go kind of visit their build out, and then we'd kind of like discuss IPA and process and stuff.
And they're wonderful, but it was kind of nice because for all the beer nerds that didn't necessarily know about hazies yet, we're so excited about Turning Point opening. And so they were kind of first to market, like can wise and like really like making multiple at a time. And so it was pretty nice for us. People in the beer sphere already kind of got it if they'd been to Turning Point before. But I would say I'm trying to think back because I do feel like it was, I mean, still, honestly, to this day, it's a lot of education for kind of the people that don't know the beer world quite as much. But really, I feel like people were pretty open to it. And maybe it was just like this golden time of beer. People are just so excited to be at a brewery. But yeah, I feel like we didn't have too much pushback.
I think the average. I think there were also like a ton of just hazy IPA like fanboys that traded beer left and right, from across the country that they wanted I think they were very excited to have like a couple breweries in town that were like canning hazy IPAs, super fresh. And that was kind of like, it seemed like a totally new thing, in 2018. So I think we had a ton of support of just like, I'd say more of like the craft beer nerds that were like way more into like what we were starting to focus on. And then I feel like it gradually went from like people coming in, because I'd say when we opened, we had even more IPAs on than we have now. Like we didn't have a lot of variety.
Okay.
And so it was like someone would come in and be like, I don't really like IPAs, but we could usually coax them into trying one. And usually I felt like the triple IPA would become
that was the
entry
real
level
gateway. Like it was sweet enough.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like the strongest.
Oh, you're not joking.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, for real. It's like,
I feel like those tend a little sweeter than our doubles. And
I feel like
singles,
I feel like it was typically like women that like didn't like IPAs
would go hard
naturally
on
would like after
hazies.
trying some would be like, oh, I'll take the triple IPA.
Yeah.
So
that is incredible. I've never heard anything like that. There was no way I ever would have picked anyone. I thought you were dead ass joking. That's crazy.
No, I wish.
Yeah, it was surprising.
We never really thought we didn't even really plan. Like I'd say when we were like, thinking about the brew, we're like, okay, we'll make IP pale ales, IPAs, double IPAs, and then like some classic, some lagers, stouts, like kind of like fruity beers. We didn't really even like have triple IPA really on the radar that much until like I think I was brewing a beer, and then I was like, dang, I got like a really good efficiency, and I was like, well, this is actually like going to be like a 10% beer. So we just kind of rolled with it, and it ended up like turning that into like maybe our first triple, and then that started to become like our most popular beer style for a while. It was just like people just loved their like 10% IPAs, and for a while we didn't make enough of them, so didn't see that one. Yeah,
I bet. Is that a segue?
Yes, honestly, yes. It's a perfect segue.
Yeah, actually it is.
I was gonna say you guys were like setting up with some layup right here.
So unfortunately and kind of fortunately, I sent you Burnout. We are out of Burnout.
But you have another one?
So I actually, instead of Burnout, we brought another triple that you might appreciate. Oh, this is a double. Oh, maybe grab a Space Renaissance. Yeah. I was gonna say we can talk about this one too, but the glitter metal collab with Third Moon. Canadian.
Oh, it's time to do that. Yes.
But no, I think when you're having your triple, we'll also have a triple. We have one as well.
Okay, so let's crack this triple, but I do want to talk about that because does it have glitter in it? Did you put glitter in that beer?
It doesn't. That would have been fun. But no, it's just the more and more we talk to those guys, their branding is very like heavy and
it's metal. Yeah, it's
metal, and they're very into all the different forms of metal. I feel like every time we see them, we've only met them like in person a few times, but they're just like very into like their doom metal, their metal, the black metal, death metal, and I just feel like we're so the opposite, especially me who does our branding, like everything pink and fun,
and purple and blue.
Yeah. So it's just kind of
I love it.
Why is a melding of that?
You know what? This is actually kind of cool though that we don't have the exact same one for this one, because then we can talk about two different triples and sort of how they go. So
this one's called Space Renaissance.
Space Renaissance, and we have Burnout. What's your hop bill on that one?
On Space Renaissance,
it's got a bunch.
This one's actually kind of all over the place. So it's it's got Amarillo, Strata, Galaxy, Comet, and Citra. So usually we don't use that many hops, but I think when we made this beer a few years ago, we were kind of like, let's kind of throw a few more at it than we normally would. But
yeah.
I love that. And then I have Idaho 7, which is my old favorite hop. That was my favorite hop for years. It's the best, isn't it? Strata and Citra.
What is your new hop?
Peacherine. Have you guys played with that?
Honestly, I've sampled it. We actually haven't brewed anything with it yet. I just got yesterday about it. I've been slacking on it. So
I would emphatically and aggressively encourage you to look into it. It's literally like I've never had a beer that's even mid with peacherine. I feel like there's a brewery in Quebec called Le Ketch, and the gentleman from there, who was, I guess, the first time that I'd had a peacherine beer, So it's like the cheat code, which I kind of feel like Citra was always the cheat code hop.
Yeah.
And he's saying that Peacherine is, and it's just because it's like this, like a what's a creamy peachy dessert that's escaping me right now?
Like a cobbler, like a
Kind of a cobbler. That was the word I had in my head. Yeah,
something like that. Like
peaches and cream, like it's
cream. Yeah,
a la mode exactly. Like this. It's so bright and creamy, and particularly if it's single hop, you can mix it in. I almost feel like that's a waste. Like if I was to use Peacherine, I'd be like single hop every day in different ABVs, different malt bodies. It's the greatest, and it's really hard to get. So if you have it, I would love to see it like played with. Do you guys do many single hop beers, or are you sort of more into the
coming up? We used to. We did for a while. I feel like when we opened, we were trying to do like specific
kind of like
single hop beers.
Yeah, and like almost an education. I mean, for ourselves too, but kind of for our guests that like didn't quite understand the difference between hops because we were always throwing in 2, 3, 4 hops in the bill every time. And so for a while we had like Strata space, Citrus space.
I want to say we did a Vic Secret. We did a Vic Secret one, and some of those, I'd say like Citra and Strata could kind of hold their own by themselves.
But I feel
Vic Secret not so much to me.
Sometimes they were a little singular.
I agree.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just don't work single. Sometimes hops are supporting hops, and you got to know your role.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, Peacherine. Yeah, I want to say I actually got the guys at Freestyle. You ever heard of Freestyle?
Oh
hops?
yeah, in New Zealand, absolutely.
Yeah. So they were saying that I guess they have a new crop of, or I guess they have some Peacherine that they're looking. They were like, oh, if you're interested in any, so
cool.
I couldn't. Yes, I got. I'll talk to you off air about something that could be an idea. But like honestly, I couldn't emphatically encourage you enough to grab some of that. It's just you just absolutely cannot go wrong with that hop. So let's talk about your side first. So the Space Renaissance. Tell us about that one.
So I'd say again, heavy Pilsner malt base. With these, what we're trying to do is also like have that kind of velvety sort of like soft mouthfeel, but kind of the bonus we kind of found out with the triple IPAs is like once you hit that 10% range, we seem to really extract like more out of the hops, like more flavor, more oils out of there. So for lack of a better term, you get a little more like mouthfeel. Like I always say they're greasy, but in a good way, like greasy hops, like it's giving you
high alpha acid.
Yeah.
Which I feel like you'll get on that one too.
Yeah. So like I feel like the triples and the doubles.
Cheers, by the way.
Yeah. Cheers. I feel like the triples just seem to have a little bit more flavor, a little more
big.
And then they definitely give you more of a buzz. But we're also trying to give a good backbone for those hops to kind of like to shine. But again, a really simple malt bill. Malted wheat. This one's flaked oats. Our triples are usually flaked oats and malted wheat, or flaked oats and flaked wheat. With the malted wheat as well. So
And hopefully that one traveled up there okay.
Everything traveled just fine. This tastes as hectic as I anticipated for a triple. Nothing is muted or anything like that. I imagine all these beers are relatively like, as far as dates, like probably within a month-ish.
Jersey we brewed that a while, but I feel like that one's so interesting.
That's a lager. Doesn't matter.
Like the rest of them,
I drink a 6-month-old lager, not even blink.
Yeah. And with Burnout again, like Idaho 7 is probably one of my favorite hops. It's just gotten better. So like I say, we started brewing with it was a little more dank and like weedy. Now it's more just like straight pineapple, like tangerine, but like heavy pineapple. So it's a good I think addition to like the more citrus forward hops like Citra and what's the other hop on that one? What was on the?
This is Strata, Citra, and Idaho 7.
I feel like that's kind of our holy trinity there. It works really well. Yeah,
Strata is. I noticed now. I think did we have? Correct me if I'm wrong here. Did we have Strata in? No, we did not have it in the last one. But I feel like maybe you've mentioned it in the discussions there. You guys are a fan of
Strata.
Where's Strata from? Where's it from?
So it's from
PNW.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so it's Oregon. I think it's actually all grown. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it's mostly Oregon grown. I don't think because Yakima. So it's Yakima Chief. It's Indie hops.
Also
was
YCH.
Yeah,
Okay.
so YCH doesn't grow it. Like Crosby grows it. Well, it's Crosby and then Indie hops. They're the guys that actually like bred it along with like Oregon State or Oregon University. Like it was like a collaboration effort to create a new hop variety. So so when we got access to it, I want to say it was like maybe a few months after we opened, we were approached and we could buy a tiny amount of it, and we made a beer with it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this hop is great.
Awesome.
And it's cool. It's like, it's definitely like dank and like diesel-y. Sometimes you can get some like strawberry out of it. I'd say I don't always get that flavor, but it's a good. I think it balances some of those like heavy fruit characteristics with like more of like a fruity dankness.
Yeah. And I can't remember. Gotcha. Maybe it was Comet now that I'm thinking about it, but was it Strata? The reason we became pretty close in the beginning.
No, it was Strata.
Yeah, to Crosby. Our first year of being open, we somehow got in touch with aerospace engineering company that was trying to send up these reusable rockets. And so they were like shooting them as far as possible and then trying to land them. And so they were asking if we wanted to send any hops up to space. And so I think we contacted
our friend's friend was he was the engineer.
Yes.
And he was a home brewer and he was going to do it. And we were like, well, what if we give you some Comet hops?
Yeah. And so we told Crosby about that. And then they sent, some Comet.
Because we couldn't get Strata, but like we told them we were doing this project and, we were able to buy, I don't know, 100 pounds or something like that.
And we were only able to send up, like a tiny bag of it because, his payload could only be how many ever pounds. And but it was so special. So we were able to brew a beer called Space Party with it and had a bunch of the engineers come out and like show the launch on the screen and talk about it.
With the hops that went up and came back.
With the hops that came back. And
that's insane.
They never quite got past. One time they went to the stratosphere. One time they went ionosphere or something, but they never quite.
That's
which was, but pretty cool. Like up into space, kind of
a little higher than a building. That's awesome. That's just just rolling the dice on that from you guys' perspective is cool as hell. I love that. That's so sick. Is that where the space theme stuff comes from, or you had that already?
We had that already. Actually,
we had it already, but it was so perfect. Like I feel like any time that anything with space comes up, people think of us because of that.
And
maybe
Celestial.
Or we're able to reach out and like, this is our brand. This is kind of who we are.
Kind of connections. Kind of our idea with like the space side was like we were looking for sort of some boundaries and a theme for the brewery, and it seemed like a good like combo of like Molly's art background and my like I love science and like I grew up in Houston going to NASA and all the time and
we would look at Matt's telescope a lot. Like up in Denton, you can see some more stars than you can in Dallas, and so we're just like it's very us in a way, but kind of it is nice, at least like as an artist with all the can labels we're doing to kind of have some theme-ish, and we've kind of veered away from that theme honestly in the past couple of years, which was just like I don't know how many more space constellation like Greek mythology like imagery I could do, but but it's kind of nice to have like an umbrella to work under in some way.
It goes with everything. And I also love the like the alien cowboy thing you got going on as well, which is super fun and seems like ridiculous in the best possible use of the term, like just fun and just like, hey man, we can just, and I guess because it's kind of perfect, which only just sort of hit me as I'm saying this, but obviously your anniversary is on Halloween. So that's why you had the crazy party recently, because obviously I'm following along every time I see your post. I'm like, hell yeah. That's super fun. So where does that side come from, the alien cowboy thing?
I think so. That was primarily just a theme for this party, but I think because we're in Texas, it kind of like I feel like Western themes do sort of appear, and then of course like alien and spacey themes are always there. So we're just like, this is so perfect for kind of like a theme for a party, and because typically our anniversary party is right on or right before Halloween, and this time it was the weekend after. And so we're kind of like, do we tell people? Usually we're just like, dress up and this is your costume party, and we'll all as a staff dress up as different can labels and have people like guess what we are. But we're like, it's the weekend after Halloween, and so we just kind of felt like we needed a theme as opposed to just dress up because we didn't think people were going to. So that's kind of where that specific Aliens versus Cowboys came from. But it just sort of works. Like we're in Texas.
I feel like Texas has more space now too. It's like, besides honestly, NASA, we also like SpaceX is such a big part of,
move to Austin.
But yeah, it works. Like, yeah, it's a fun concept and stuff to play around with. So
it's perfect, and it works so well with the branding, which maybe it's a kind of a nice segue as well. By the way, this triple IPA is Flames. This is so big and bold and dank and juicy and candy and
nice.
Like I don't really drink many of these because I'm more of a volume dude. So like I don't really do too many triple IPAs. So when I do get to drink them, it's super fun because it's sort of something that I don't always gravitate towards. So when it's presented, I'm like, you know what? Hell yeah, this is nice because I'm not going to go to my. This is great, and it's absolutely does not taste like this. Is at best like 7% as far as it tastes. Like this, like you guys said, this will get you in a bit of trouble. I know we have a few more to go, but yeah, I can see. My point was, I guess I can see why the triples, which is also a fascinating point about you all, that is that triple IPAs are a big thing for you guys, or at least were at some point.
Yeah, they're still pretty big. We have to keep them. We have to make one. I mean, they're I'd say 2 IPAs to 1 triple, or something like that. Like, or sorry, 2 double IPAs to a triple. Like,
okay.
As far as like our production goes, there was a time when we were making probably more triples than doubles. And we've kind of slowed that down. Yeah. So
we're seeing people wanting lighter now. Certainly more lagers. They're selling a little bit better now.
Yeah, we make a lot more lager than we used to. So we do we do have like a beer flavored beer, like American light
normal
lager.
Beer.
Yeah, normal beer. And then then we have like pilsners and then we've done like some dark lagers. So we've kind of like tried to explore the lagers, I guess the universe of that. So and it's cool because there's that's where it's hard to sometimes be our brewery and be like traditional in a way. Like people don't get super excited about like some of the classic styles, but everybody knows what a pilsner is and things like that. So, and luckily there's a ton of variation within that style. So we kind of explore the German pilsner, a hoppy Czech. And then the Italian pilsner's been one of our favorite ones to explore, and then having the Polish one as well. So it's been, I'd say in the last 2 years we've been able to kind of like grow our lager production and program quite a bit. So
that's fun, which is literally the complete opposite to the triple IPA, which is sick, which also shows the skills of what you guys are doing as far as the breadth of the styles, like like doing triple IPAs at a high level, which is, I imagine, is not particularly easy to make this very drinkable and not boozy, to keep the body good and all of that, whilst also maintaining the complete opposite of that with the crispies, as far as like clarity and just clean, and you can't hide behind anything. And I think it's amazing.
I think those were definitely a challenge, because again, like I wasn't producing a lot of lager before we opened, so kind of learning those pretty quickly, like what works, what doesn't work, like how do you make it taste really clean, and then getting clarity right is another part. It's gotta, I feel like the appearance of those matter. Like a hazy has to be hazy, a lager typically has to be clear and bright.
Bubbly.
So
I definitely agree. I feel like I feel like there's as you're sort of talking about earlier, Molly, I feel like the milky body ones can do good, but like I haven't seen any white ones yet, thankfully, at least up here. But
I'm sure I could look through my screen. I'm like, wow, it's wild.
What is this? Yeah, it's like I feel like there's a spectrum of haze, and then also I think the clarity of the crispies, and that's like dry hops, and then you get some of the haze that or like haze is not even the word, just some sort of opacity, I guess, from that hop introduction, which would make that not as clear, which is fine. But I guess appearance is important. Another great segue to the design of your of everything that you guys are doing. I feel like you're one of the things that attracted, obviously I had somebody that I trusted recommend you aggressively, and I was like, hell yeah, let's go. But also it was just like the designs are beautiful. And then I look at your social and I'm like, oh wow, this is like extraordinarily unique, and just these bold colors that are reminiscent of kind of almost like the late 80s with that sort of like purple, pink, turquoise, like all of these vibes that are, obviously the ringback tone, which is a bit of a throwback, maybe not the 80s, but something cool like that. So I'd love to hear from you guys how do you approach all of the art? I guess, Molly, this is your sort of like world here. The art, the social, like the just essentially the brand identity of Celestial. How did that all come about, and what's your intention there?
I think it is a very unique gift that I was given, kind of like being in charge or like very involved in what beers are being made, but then also like I am in charge of the art side. And what I mean by that is kind of I'm able to sort of combine the decor of the tap room because we were the ones building it out ourselves, and kind of like I know what's coming up because I live with this guy and I'm very involved, and because I always know what's coming up, and even like event wise. So my sister, when we first moved here from Colorado to be our GM / events coordinator, and so very involved in kind of all the different parts. I'm working with her every day side by side for events. So it's pretty neat being able to do the art and can designs and kind of able to like weave certain themes and colors and kind of like graphics that you'll see throughout to what's happening like in the tap room physically on the cans with our events. And I think it's nice as an artist. So my background when Matt was an engineer and then working at Malai Kitchen, I was teaching art to elementary school, but I graduated with a painting degree. So just like that is my biggest hobby, just like painting, sketching, working with different colors, working kind of with kids, which is maybe where some of the playful elements come out kind of in the art. Teaching now, our kids are 6 and 8. I teach like an art club at their school, and kind of I think it's a unique opportunity where I'm able to kind of express myself and just really put what I like on the cans. Like, oh, I'm very into pink and clouds and stars right now. Like that's what you're going to see. And I think it is neat, maybe just as an artist, I don't know, being able to create like all these different pieces where automatically like you have them in your home. Like you just bought my art, even though you didn't, like you bought the beer, you bought into what Celestial is like outside of the art, but it's neat, the brand kind of coming into it, if that answers your question. But yeah, it's just very like, I think my style has always been very colorful, has always been very playful, has always been very just kind of like exciting and girly, and yeah, a lot of like pinks, a lot of shiny elements, and it's pretty neat that in our tap room I can bring in the disco balls, and on the cans I can bring in the metallics and the pinks and the pastels, and so I think in the beginning I remember we were a little bit more cognizant of it because we're new, we don't want to come off as this like very overtly girly brand. All these dudes that we were seeing at Malai were the ones that get the hazies. And we want to, be the like girl beer, but they didn't want to drink. So I feel like in the beginning we were always colorful, but I don't know if you've ever seen pictures. I know on our social media we share, but like our walls were black and white. Like they're very decorative. I painted constellations all over them, but they're black and white.
And your shirt actually
is an element of our mural.
Yeah.
But I think I would put kind of a little bit of myself, beautiful, in ways I think as we've kind of gotten more comfortable with our brand and with who we are. I'm like, you know what, this is my job. This is our third baby is Celestial. If I want to make something that's like very colorful and fun, it just sort of like, presents itself. And I feel like people respond pretty well. But it's definitely a fun ongoing project that is quite a feat but an exciting thing. Like I feel like I'm never bored doing it.
Mhm.
Just as many beers as you can create. I'm like, all right, another label, another thing to make for Celestial. So yeah.
I love that. And it's so, I hadn't, do you know what's interesting when you said that you were cognizant of it being girly? That didn't even cross my mind. When I saw the branding, I was just like, oh, this is cool. This is bright and like
Okay.
fun. There wasn't even like, it didn't like literally even until this very moment, even seeing your social and being those colors didn't strike me as girly. And even if it did strike some people, isn't that almost cooler, because then it would have stood out, because none of the other like direct peers is probably a better word than competitors as such, like, you know, the other haze lords of all across the country would particularly lean on those color palettes. So it doesn't feel like girly's the last word I would use, and that's not even a negative word at all, but it just sort of felt like, hey, this is bright and fun and like funky. And because nostalgia is in, like, you know, that thing that we keep seeing, remember, like, it was like the pattern on the like the fountain drink cups with the purple and the blue line.
Yes.
It gives that in the most positive way, because like I'm born in 81, so like I grew up in all of this. So like even in Australia we had that thing. People were wearing parachute tracksuits with those colors. My mom, my dad, me and my brother, you know, like, this is almost, to me, I see it as nostalgic and not a gender thing. So I find I feel I imagine that probably people also would the majority of people might have seen it through that lens. Like, it's just nostalgic and cool, but really that's one side of it, and that's really great. If I wasn't recommended to try your stuff, I probably would have been gravitated towards it because of the attractive label, and it just happened to be that the stuff inside the can was exceptional. So I think it's like, and then your social as well really reflects that, and it's very like the same thing. Lots of purples and pinks and turquoise and teal, and it's just sort of bright and funky and like really beautifully shot photos, which is something that personally I love to see a brewery with great social. My girlfriend and I own a social media agency, so we're aggressively passionate about, I want breweries to win, and I want breweries to have great social, and not all breweries have great social. And I feel like you guys have really landed on something that's unique, and then it stands out whenever it's in my feed. And if I see those colors, I'm like, oh, this is Celestial, before I even see
that's cool.
The handle.
Good.
Nice.
Because it is funny, because I feel like in the beginning, kind of going back to talking about being on the shelves of grocery stores, in the beginning, I feel like you would walk in and you're like, oh, that's Celestial, the pinks, the purples, the bright colors, like a lot of graphics going on. And now I feel like more and more breweries are maybe leaning into that, or just being more design focused, or kind of like wanting to pull the eye too. So I feel like when we walk into a Whole Foods now, I'm like, oh no, like we're just surrounded by colors. I'm like, I don't know how to pull back. I don't know how to like go back from here. But I think we're also sort of talking about like in the process of like learning how to draw in other drinkers. I'm like, maybe I need to kind of alter. I'm very happy with our branding, and I love our color palette. I don't ever see us moving away from that, but I'm like, maybe I do need to start like being more bold with color blocking or something to make it stand out again. Because I feel like for a while, Celestial was very standalone kind of in our palette, and now I would say less and less for sure as we go on.
I say that even the can you have the burnout. I feel like that's like probably like more
very different.
And the first time we released that was like on a Halloween, so it's supposed to be kind of spooky. It's the Van Gogh's his famous like cigarette smoking skeleton. But I feel like for me was a little bit harder. I'm like, this is not the way I work, and like the dark kind of edgier. But I feel like I'm almost thinking like, okay, maybe Celestial, with keeping our identity, needs to kind of adjust or pivot a little bit. But it makes me feel really good that you are drawn to that, because I feel like that is certainly my style of art that I'm also gravitating towards, like the colorful, the fun, the like pretty, if you will.
I'm even just picturing the fridge as you're talking about it at Brewed and Bottled, specifically where somebody out this way would see you.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that, like, there's some color, KCBC, they have their stuff. They're pretty colorful. And, like where it was in the fridge, I'm even picturing the way that he presented it, that he chose, the owner, Chris, chose to present it. And I feel like it still stood out, though. Like, I feel like things are more colorful, and I see what you're saying. Like, I don't know. I like the authenticity of this, though, that you guys have done it from the beginning, and that, as Matt, you're doing the beer. Obviously, you're working together on the ideas because you're both beer nerds, which is even cooler. Because personally, this is the other thing that was enticing to me was I love a entrepreneur couple. Because my girlfriend and I are that, and I love seeing couples work together and just fucking dominate. And I just think it's like, like, honey, get off the computer. Come on, come and watch it. Like, it's like, nah, we've got this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how well it would work without working together. Like, it'd be like,
I couldn't imagine, dude.
Such a involved process, and
I'm sure you understand. Like, we always talk about, like, if one of us had
never ends.
It really never ends.
How do you do it? Because it never ends, but you both got responsibilities that perhaps the other one can't
for sure
replace. Yeah. I know I can't do what my girlfriend does, and potentially vice versa.
Oh, for sure.
There's that, and there's something that's like I always see, you always hear the thing about the one partner bothering the other partner who's working too much or whatever because they want to spend some time. But I'm like, maybe spending time together when you're working on the same business is spending time together, and you are hanging out and you're talking about something that you both care about. And I think it's healthy for the relationship as long as you can balance it at times. And maybe you got to shut it off, and it is what it is. But I don't know. I just. Maybe because I'm in that situation, I have I'm attracted to that, and I just think it's like very, very cool. And I love that it's like that you are both beer nerds together, and that you sort of were like, okay, when you met, you would just, all right, let's take this further. It's not like Molly, you're like, stop with your brewing shit. Like you're like, no, let's take this further. Yeah, exactly. What's all this beer in the living room? Let's get rid of it. Like, nah, you're like, hey. I like it too. How about you try this? And I imagine, Matt, from your side, that Molly probably gave you a million ideas of tweaks to the beers and concepts and all that type of thing, because she has a fantastic palate and understands beer as well, and you can both continue to work that together to improve the product.
Yeah.
It is kind of nice too, because as much as we are always talking about it,
I think it's the I don't know why it does that sometimes.
I say like celebrated or something. Cool.
Yeah.
But as much as I feel like we're constantly talking about the brewery, and like always, like even when we're on date nights where we're like, we're not going to talk about Celestial tonight, and then just automatically,
what are you going to do?
Your girlfriend too. That's just what the conversation.
Yeah,
but it is nice that we have very different skill sets and very different roles in the company.
Mm-hmm.
So like really, I mean, I feel like I certainly give you ideas for styles or like
paler. Can you make the IPA
make it white? Make it white.
But I feel like I trust you, and he really, besides like beer names or like occasional concepts, like he sort of trusts me. So it is a nice separation, even though we are constantly together.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's usually like, all right, we need a new beer label. Production schedule is IPA with these hops. Sometimes, like, Molly's got the name and the label figured out, and then but until a few days before we package it, everyone's like, "What's that beer actually called?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's actually this."
Because we're very last minute.
Also it's like it's like I can't do what she does, but also like
trust that it's happening.
Yeah, it's like usually a name. I feel like I try to come up with a name or a concept idea, and then she runs with it, and it works. Like we can stay in our lanes to an extent, where it's like I don't think I've ever been like, oh, I don't like where that font looks or where that's at. Like I have no clue. So
thank you.
Yeah.
It's great to kind of have that separation as well, and that trust, I think, is the key part, as you both just said, like just knowing that the other person is really great at what they do, and that you're like, that's gonna make this product be fire, and we don't have any questions. Like Molly doesn't question the beer, you don't question the label. You're just like, let's just go and just get it done. And I mean, I guess it kind of helps. It's not inconsequential, but it's sort of like, it's almost like content. Like just fucking get it out, just post it. Like it's move on. Type of thing as well, where you're just going to want to overthink it, because I guess at the end of the day, the people who come to the brewery are excited to be there, and whether they're locals, whether they're coming in from out of town, they've heard of you, and they're just happy to be there. So it almost like doesn't even really matter. I'm sure the labels are cool because they're colorful and funky, and the illustrations are great, and the names are fun, and the beer, the stuff inside the can or inside the draft lines are killer. So it's sort of like, hey, it's all good. But I want to just note that because I just think it's like it's not the most common thing. We do get it from time to time, which is really nice, and it's just sort of like I want to acknowledge it whenever it pops up here on the pod specifically. That I don't know, personally I have an affinity for it, so I just think it's really cool, and I was very happy to know that you're both together, married couple with kids, doing this business as your third baby, and killing it with this. It's fantastic. So okay, I'm looking at the time. I know we still have 2 more beers to go. How do you guys feel about a real quick bathroom break, and then we can get onto
let's do it.
The next ones? Love it. All right, we'll be back in a sec, and we're back. Alrighty, beautiful. So had a bit of a break. Now, we sort of alluded to this earlier, and Molly, you did hold up the can, but one of the coolest connections is that you guys were, and we sort of touched on it briefly, that you had connected with guys at Third Moon here in Canada, and it was really funny because, like I was saying, when I drank your stuff, it must have been 2-3 months ago, at least I would say, that we connected, and then I was just like, hey, would you guys love to be on? Throw it out there, because some people might not be down for that type of thing, and fortunately that you were, and I very much appreciate it. And then seeing that Third Moon, who we've known, I knew Bebo since he was like through my friend, that he was since he was a homebrew, he won homebrew competitions, very similar to yourself, Matt. He did a beer with this big brewery who's been around for like 35 years here, probably similar to some of the like Deep Ellum things we talked about earlier, called Great Lakes here in there's the Great Lakes in Cleveland, and there's Great Lakes in Toronto.
Oh, cool.
And so Bebo did a beer with them that my friend hooked me up with, which was in the it was pre-2020, obviously. They opened in 2020, so it was before then. And so I've been following. I got a few of their beers that they were sort of like doing on the big, like not on their big system, but before they were opening and stuff through the so I got to watch them through their whole journey. Me and my friend hosted their first anniversary, balls deep in COVID, obviously, because they opened May 2020. Party, and we had him on the pod a couple times in these epic long episodes, so they've become good friends. Even Chris from Third Moon has lent his ice pack thing to my girlfriend's mother, who like broke her ankle this summer, so he came to the house and dropped off the salt of the earth human. So when I saw, and this surprised me, like I said, I really felt like, oh, like Celestial's my shit, like I discovered them at Brewed and Bottled. I'm telling people about them, right? I felt a little bit of like protectiveness of you guys, because no one else told me about you. I discovered it directly from Brewed and Bottled, no Canadian at the very least. And then I saw that you guys did a beer with Third Moon for their Halloween drop, which is this beautiful gem here, which I believe is called Weary Bones.
Yeah.
And then I was like, when I saw this drop, I was like, are you fucking like, what? How? What's going on? And then I saw you guys post your side that Jim, I also met him back in the day too, and Jim's been like on Third Moon since before day one. He is a salt of the earth, as you know, because he came down to Dallas to do the Celestial side of the collab, which is arguably the coolest thing ever when breweries get to physically, get to do both those sides. So I'd love to hear the story from. Should we crack the beer first before I ask the question? I realize I got to be excited.
Yeah,
maybe we'll crack the beer, then you can answer the question. So I want to hear about the story. So I got to be honest here. All of these beers are fire and impeccable and sick. This is the one I've been waiting for. I'm not gonna lie.
Good. Oh, exciting.
So this is. I feel like this represents everything about what you do.
We're talking about all the color palette. This is the color palette beer.
It is funny. I think for the first time. Maybe we brewed it 2.5 years. It's been it's only like a year, since we've been brewing ube,
like end of summer.
Tropic was so early. Yeah, right. So we brewed this beer called Pina Colada Tropic. We've brewed that since I think 2020, maybe a little before.
1920,
maybe 2019. It's a very speaking of milky, really white, beautiful pineapple coconut, and then we had some ube. I think it was like
It was a cocktail.
Yeah. Oh,
like a frozen
yes,
cocktail.
yes. So there's this really cool kind of funky 70s dive bar in Dallas that had this frozen painkiller with ube. And so it was this like purple color, just like
Pina colada.
nutmeg tasting, painkiller tropical. And it was
Fuck it.
the best thing we'd ever had. And we're like, we have to make this into a beer. And we already had this pina colada tropic that we've been making for years. And we're like, if we just added ube to this, it would give it a little nuttiness. It would give it a little like tiny bit of vanilla character. I wouldn't say ube is like overly flavorful, but it would just play so well with the pina colada, like tropical character.
It like elevates the pina colada.
Just be so beautiful. And it is the most beautiful beer we do. I'm always thrilled every time you're able to make it. Just like
definitely. Yeah. So maybe not but super purple.
And I feel like this is a fun one, especially for the non-beer drinkers. So we had an event, I think after a while of making it and just people like getting pretty psyched about it. It's always one that we bring to beer festivals if we have it available, just because like I think people like, the kind of silly fun beers, especially in their little tasters to check in on Untapped, all the 100 beers they're having that day. Kind of realize like, okay, this is taking off. People are pretty pumped about it. And in July, we had a big event called Ube Mania where we did 6 different variations, some with ube, some without.
Some kind of more like the tropic.
Yeah, similar like a matcha version, blue spirulina version. And it just like took off in a way that we expected. Like we're excited about it. People are excited about it, but kind of definitely surpassed like what we thought the day was going to be like, definitely surpassed the excitement that we thought it would bring in. And so we're just kind of like, this isn't necessarily what we thought we were getting into a brewery to do, but we love it so much. And it's just like, the prettiest, like silliest, but most delicious beer, like so creamy, so pastel and like lovely. But it's a huge favorite of ours. Just very smooth, very tropical.
It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I love it. Guys, cheers. Thank you. I'm so stoked. This is so good. It smells incredible. Straight coconut, just coconut.
Yeah, coconut.
Yeah, like coconut cream.
Stop. Is this the oh my god. This is a pina colada one, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the base is basically a pina colada. Like we kind of made it before smoothies were going real crazy. So like the tropic base beer of this was sort of just like we had a sour beer we were making, and we had a little like I don't know, it was like a 50-gallon little like tank we could just put fruit into, hook it up to the draft line, and just like
good to go. Experiment
with stuff. And I remember putting all of this stuff in there and being like hooking it up, and it like came out looking white, and I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. People loved it. Like people went crazy for it.
And that back then we were surprised. We're like, it's so thick. Like, are people sure they want it? Like, it's so. And it was pre-smoothie sour craze. So like that was such a thick beer, and now I feel like the way that people pack into it's gotten so much thicker. But so it was.
It's sort of like an accident in a way, like that we kind of just. It was one of those like, all right, we'll just try and experiment, and then people really dug it. So like, all right, well, let's just keep doing it.
And it's fun. Recently, after kind of seeing the excitement that people have around Tropic alone, and then Ube, we kind of play with other flavors sometimes, like a horchata we just did, a Thai tea, like really beautiful orange one that we had around our anniversary, like Halloween-y themed. But it's just like a very silly but delicious beer, if you can call it beer. It is beer.
Oh, no. This is beer. Trust me. Me and my my co-host who does all the Canadian ones with me, Nate. Him and I have aggressively stood up for smoothie sours. This is a Berliner Weiss with a shit ton of aseptic fruit puree put on top of it. It is goddamn a beer, and anyone trying to argue otherwise needs to relax. Like this is sure. You know what? If you see a fruited sour that's like 5-6%, it's the same shit. It's just that this fruit has been filtered out, and now you left the fruit on. So to me, this I got a thing for innovation. I always like dumb. Well, not dumb, but like funny.
Oh, it's dumb.
Fun. Okay, cool. If Maddie, if you're
No,
saying
no,
it, brother,
Yeah, yeah.
like dumb, fun, ridiculous shit. And this is what I really love about Celestial. I just feel like, and none of those the words in any negative connotation whatsoever. Like innovation in beer is something that we often joke about within the beer writer nerd podcast friends that I have, and like people often get, do you remember in like 2017 people got mad at milkshake IPAs? Like that was like the biggest thing that people wanted to murder people for.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I got into beer properly in like 2011 doing the selfie thing, and then that led to the podcast. So I don't have like this like purist attachment to like Reinheitsgebot, but like it has to have 4 ingredients or it's not beer. Like no, bro, like be fun, like have fun. To me, this is so much fun. It smells great. It tastes great. It's absolutely beer. It's made with the 4 ingredients and just has a couple extra things. So I don't really have a lot of time for people who are getting upset about smoothie sales in the year of our Lord 2024. Sorry, I'm like, I got no time for this, and I just think this is so fun. And I think your photo shoots for this were phenomenal, and the way you presented it made me aggressively want this beer. So when I saw this in the package, I was like, yes, this. If any beer, I would have loved to try the Third Moon collab, but I feel like if anything, if I had to choose anything, this would have been the one. So thank you very much for including this. I guess the timing was.
We'll also mail you up the Third Moon collab, so you can try that for sure.
Yeah.
From the other side, exactly. So it's very, very cool. But I think this is awesome. So do you guys? What's your vibes on smoothies? Are you doing smoothies regularly? Are they here and there kind of thing? Or?
Yeah, I'd say this has kind of become more of our like. We kind of have to have this beer available in the tap room. Like if we don't, literally the reason we make it more frequently than we used to is because people would literally walk in like, oh, do you guys have that ube beer? And we're like, no, leave.
Yeah.
Literally because, but we also get a different crowd with these where it's like,
it's fun. It brings
these guys
some
won't,
younger drinkers,
guys
like,
or girls or whoever.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like both genders.
I'd say it's like a more diverse, like different beer drinker drinking these beers. So it's like, it's
who
definitely.
drinks this?
I'd say honestly a lot of women.
A lot of like older men.
But I've also just seen like Haze Bros and like
okay, good. Haze Bros are what I expected to say.
I've seen guys come in that you would think we're only going to drink beer flavored beer, order an IPA, and then a can of this or whatever. So it's like I'm like, okay, it resonates across the board. Like flavors doesn't judge. Like it's awesome. So
and we have
that makes sense.
Series called Mystery Box where we kind of like just play with different kind of heavily fruited sours, and they're sort of at this level where not like super thick, but like creamy enough. And
they're like, I'd say they're more smoothie than these are. Like this has got really good texture, like the coconut, like coconut cream, and like a lot of the coconut purees really add like just a mouthfeel. You can't it's thick enough, but it's not like chewing the puree pretty much. So
okay, so you guys go even harder than this.
Yeah, not with this style, but with our smoothies, I'd say they're definitely thicker.
So this is
some.
You wouldn't call this a smoothie?
Yes, I mean it's certainly thicker than.
It's a smoothie, but I'd say compared to like, let's say like if we're going for like the classic smoothie purveyors like 450 North and like maybe more
Mortalis, like almost like more chunky. Like
I feel like theirs are a little more like they're just more like probably more fruit in there. I feel like this one balances that. It gives you enough body with that like fat from the coconut, so it's like
that's true. So it like reads a little thicker than it maybe is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I'd say viscosity wise, this isn't as viscous as some of those big ones. So
that's one of my favorite words of all time. So I'm glad you used viscosity. I love that. Honestly, this is like as good as any. This is like we just did a collab. We're doing a collab with Mortalis for our anniversary, and my friend is a brewer for them, and their smoothies are spectacular.
So good.
I feel like they're on the sweeter side. This is a little more restrained.
Yeah.
Which probably attained. I feel like the sweeter side is more that sort of American thing where just like stuff is sweeter. So maybe not being as used to that. To me, this reads like any smoothie you would get from Third Moon or Brewski in Quebec or Masorum or something like that.
Cool.
This I would not call this a smoothie. This is like absolutely quintessential smoothie. If you do something thicker, I think that's dope. But I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call this a fruited sour because if I went and got a fruited sour,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
And it was this, I'd be like, oh, this is a smoothie. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is, I just gave this 5 on Untapped. This is fucking
Oh, thank
insane.
Yeah.
But like all of these beers are insane. But this is like, so this is, man, I love this so much. I knew I was going to. I was very excited for this. I just feel like it's just so fun. And I discovered obviously Trader Joe's is the greatest thing known to humankind.
Oh, they have some ube.
Yes, last April we were in Miami for a month, so we were going to Trader Joe's dead ass basically every day because it's something that we go.
Great.
Isn't it the greatest? And they have the ube stuff, and I'd never even heard of it before. So I bought everything that was ube, the little JoJo's, the little tea cookies, there was a bunch of different stuff.
There's like a jam too. Do they do the jam? That's
I think they might have done a ube jam too. I think you're right.
Like,
yeah,
it's like a spread or something. Yeah,
it's kind of like April. It was so maybe like the springtime.
Yeah, and they
time of
do
year.
switch around all their like fun little things.
The stuff, it's the fun. It's the greatest. Like that's why we go to Buffalo once a month to. Hence why I was telling you about the date to shit because I go once a month every basically 4th Friday to go and go to UPS to get my packages, go to Brewed and Bottled because it's across the street, and then go straight to Trader Joe's. It's
awesome.
it's the best. And I discovered ube. I never even heard of it. It seems like I believe it's from the Philippines, from what I understand. It's like a what is ube? Is it like a root, like almost like a sweet potato?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a purple sweet potato.
Yeah.
I know it's called taro. I think in another culture, taro.
Taro, it's taro. You'll see it more in like boba teas. You know, like you'll see it in like
mochi, some ice creams.
Yeah.
But definitely like a
Pastries.
dessert flavor. Like I don't know how much they use it in a like savory fashion. But honestly,
I'm looking it up. Yeah, straight up sweet potato. Just looks like a purple sweet potato.
And it's nice because I think when we tell people that, because a lot of people don't know what ube is. Maybe the ones that don't frequent Trader Joe's as much as we do. But when they're like
level.
Sweet potato, and like on the label, I have little like sweet potatoes photoshopped in there, and I think it does turn people off. But it is funny because it does so much for the color. Yeah, there you go. It does so much for the color, but it really doesn't add so much flavor. Like I feel like a little nutty, nutmeg-ish kind of vanilla like softness, but really like I mostly taste our tropic, like our pina colada flavor in it, which is kind of nice. So it's like, very beautiful without having, because we add a ton of it, but we don't have to worry about like, so much like earthiness or something. I think people think potato and they're like, oh, like earth. And it really does not give that at all.
Not at all. It's like I feel like the coconut reigns, and then vanilla would probably be the second most, and then the pineapple is like a little bit of like a nice little tart, tangy vibe in the background.
Yeah,
it's perfectly balanced.
Yeah, the ube is kind of giving it. I think it's like turning up the nuttiness of the coconut, like a little bit. Like it's turning the volume knob up there, and then the color is really like the biggest contributor, I'd say. But it definitely does. Like if you try when we make the non-ube version, like you can tell a difference. So
gotcha. So it's pretty obvious. It's just fun, man, and I appreciate you guys for just being fun with it. And I don't know, particularly from what it sounds like in a market like DFW that wasn't the quickest to jump on the fun train as far as haze and all this other stuff. I imagine probably pastry stouts would come along with that and so on and so forth. So like to be able to do this, I imagine you guys were. You said your first time you did this a couple of years ago, 2022?
I want to say actually the first time doing the ube was like, I want to say it was like
a year,
July, August, September of like 23. But then the base beer, the beer
base being around
was probably
the like white.
I think it was probably like 2019, honestly, when we started playing around with that. So and that was really just like a draft only beer that wasn't the best draft beer. And then we started doing crowlers of it, and then the pandemic started, and we would occasionally. It's just expensive to make, so we would occasionally do like a big batch, can it for when we were just only selling cans. And it was fun. It was definitely a hard beer to scale. We don't make huge batches of this, but like it's one of those where it's like tricky to make like volume of these beers. So mostly a little bit of cost, a little bit of just process. So
that makes complete sense. Well, honestly, funnest stuff ever. I love it. This is like I'm nearly finished. This is just a dangerousest thing of all time. I'm a big smoothie guy, so this is phenomenal.
Nice, cool.
So
Very, very cool. And just to bring it back, because I know that we quickly diverted to talk about this beer. So you guys met with the Third Moon fellas. Was that in the Polish festival? Or was that the other one?
The first time we met them was in Poland.
Well, actually, it was in Yakima or Portland. Or something.
Oh,
First time
We met him. We met him.
Yakima.
We met. I think it was Bebo and
Chris.
maybe Chris. I think it was actually at like Great Notion. I think it might have actually been their like Seattle spot. It wasn't even in Portland. I'm pretty sure it was Seattle.
Okay. Was it the other? Because they go out there with Troy from Badlands, and they go with the brothers from Blood Brothers.
Yeah,
so
it was a few guys. Yeah,
and it was such short meetings. We're like, oh, we got to hit Great Notion. We've never been like. So we went to one of their satellite locations, I think on the drive over there. So it was such a short meeting. But you're right. And so when I think we saw that we were both going to Poland, and I think Bebo reached out and was like, oh, I met y'all in the Pacific Northwest. And and so we hung out with them quite a bit in Poland. And then I think it just like definitely once you meet someone at a festival that you hit it off with, like internet friends who are like kind of liking each other's things, like DMing back and forth through the breweries. But then it's funny because when they came out to brew with you, I think I was with Bebo that weekend in Indiana for the 450 North Corn Maze Festival. So it was kind of fun. We were all like hanging out together in different places. Yeah,
I brought a glass.
Oh yeah, good. I'm glad you have that.
How was that fest? Because I was just there in July. And they told me about the Corn Maze Festival. I was like, fuck, I couldn't make it. But it sounded awesome.
I mean, they're the kings of smoothies, but also so many people bring their A game, like sour-wise, to this festival. Because the first time we went, I think we were pretty blown away because we brought Ube, but then we also brought a triple hazy maybe and a lager. And people were so shocked, like, oh, you have a lager, like, no one has a lager here because everyone brought smoothies because, it's 450 North. But I mean, the lager lasted the longest. Like there were a few people that were, I mean, everyone wanted sours. Everyone the hazy lasted a long time because, I think people go there.
It's pretty wild though because it's in a cornfield. Like it's in a corn maze. So it's like, there's like, you got to go through the maze to get to where there's like, I want to say there's like 6 little like dead ends where there's a bunch of breweries, so it's like, or little openings, I guess. So it's like, everyone's kind of like sectioned off, but it's pretty interesting for people to just like come out of the corn and like start
progressively getting drunker. Yeah, falling
you see people,
into the corn.
People getting pretty turned up in the corn, so it's pretty fun.
That is so. Sorry, the camera battery died, but we still go. That's what I was told, and I saw a few people had like that went, and I saw their like reels where they like summarized how it went down, and it just looks so fun. And based on sort of, I feel like when I went there, I was like, oh, they had the posters up for it, and I was like, oh, this looks pretty fun. The server was telling us about it, and then I think other people started telling me about it. I'm like, god damn it, this is sounds like kind of like the perfect festival. I didn't realize it was so smoothie heavy. Is that the primary focus of it, or is it just happened to be
in general? Like things like pastry stouts
and maybe smoothies. This year not quite as much as last year.
Okay,
but still, I mean, people always bring out the most fun, like crazy beers for these fests. But I felt like, or we were talking about just like every single booth had at least one sour, if not more, last year for sure.
That's fun.
But
I guess it's like a pretty cool beer. It's like, when is it? August? September?
September?
October
even. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of like a cool beer that you can have a bunch of without getting like too crazy, trying to figure out your way through this literal maze.
Yeah.
It's like a fun concept. Once again, like this beer, like just super fun and just something a little different than just sort of like, oh, we're in a car park and here's a bunch of tables. Not there's anything wrong with that, but it's a little more.
Sure.
It's a cool, it's a really cool setting, I'd say. Like just like you don't get to, I don't know about you, but we're not hanging out in the fields too much. So it's cool to like, they've just embraced like sort of their whatever their environment. And it's cool. It's definitely really fun. So and you get
awesome.
And then I feel like it's a different, I think you get a good mix of like, because they're kind of out like, in like farmland. So it's like you get a mixture of beer nerds, beer enthusiasts, and then you get like kind of the locals that are kind of like more, farm guys, or farm girls that are just like people you wouldn't think are just going to be slamming smoothies, but they're having a blast. So it's cool. It's super fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's the people. When we went to the brew pub, I feel like people were like staring at us as in like we did not look like we were from the cornland. I didn't realize it was in the middle of nowhere, like where it was.
Nowhere.
Yeah, and I felt like, oh, everyone. It was just like, I don't know, like a Wednesday or something. So it was just like straight locals, and I was like, oh, okay, this is not the type of people I would expect to be here.
Yeah.
So did you go just to visit 450 North, or were you there in Indiana for something else?
So we went to Nashville for my girlfriend's birthday. This was in July. So we went to Detroit for a night. We drove to Nashville for 6 days or 6 nights. And then on the way back, I wanted to pick somewhere. And it was either going to be Cincinnati or, Cincinnati was on the way down. Indianapolis or like Louisville. Okay. And we decided to go to Indianapolis. And we went to, I was like, all right, 450 North is on the way. So we just went to there. And then we went to Gugman House, which I actually, funnily enough, have on the pod next week. So I had you guys and them, which was 2 of my favorite discoveries of the summer because they were awesome. And we got like 1 night in Indianapolis. So I didn't really get to like soak it up. It was all very like quick on the travel. Nashville, we were there for a while. I got to really go to a bunch of the breweries and like get the vibe of the town. But yeah, I didn't really get to do it up properly. Then I heard about it. I was like, oh yeah, there was just a bit of a busy time. But I'd never been that part of the world before. I've been to Detroit, but I hadn't been anywhere in the South in that part of Nashville. And then we were like going through Indiana and stuff. Super interesting.
Nashville is cool. There's some good brewery. There's some good beer in Nashville too. So
yeah, I was very impressed. Nashville was great for sure. Yeah, there was a bunch of great stuff, and even then because we drove through. Because Detroit, when you go through that highway and you go past Cincinnati, I was like, what is this? This looks awesome. So we went to Cincinnati the next month in August. We had to go to Atlanta. So the perfect halfway point was Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Cincinnati was fire. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, yeah.
It was so sick. It's like hilly. There's all these hills everywhere.
Okay.
And I didn't really expect it to be so pretty. And it's literally on the border. There's this river that's on the border of Covington, Kentucky, and then Cincinnati. So like it's right literally on the border. Cincinnati's the big city, and people live in Covington or whatever would come across the border to work, I guess, because that's where the city is.
Nice.
And it was just so pretty. Everyone was so nice. And I don't know, I've just been impressed with that side because we would always go to, like, as sort of East Coasters, we would always go to New York, Philly, DC, Virginia. We explored a lot, down to Florida, whatever. And hadn't really gone into that, like, it's not quite as far as Texas, as far, but just that, like, inland a little bit. And this was the first time this summer, and just seeing the landscape, Kentucky was way more hilly and cool than we thought. And Tennessee was sick, and people, like, the accent is awesome, and everyone's so nice. And you guys don't have the Texas accent, by the way. I guess you said you guys are not. I'm from Houston.
I'm from
Texas.
I just didn't.
I feel like there are only certain little pockets, like really,
they get it, eh?
Rural.
And my dad's full on. Texas.
Both of your parents have Texas.
How does it work then? How does the accent work? Is it sort of like if you grow up?
Big cities, like I wouldn't say many people in Dallas or Houston or Austin necessarily
would have it.
I don't know.
I feel like they grew up like outside of Waco. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, my dad was definitely like a farm boy, like, and so I think he's just like ingrained in him. My mom, maybe it was just time too. I don't know if it was just different, like back in the 70s and 60s, but yeah, I don't know. I never got it. Never got the accent. Every now and then it comes out. So just depends. Yeah. I can turn on like King of the Hill if I need to, but I was gonna say there was when you were in Nashville, did you have any Zool? There are the guys in
Knoxville. So we went to, funnily enough, not the Nashville trip. So we went to Cincinnati, and on the way to Atlanta, I was like looking through, and I was telling because my girlfriend puts up, I was like, look, we have to go. She's cool with it too, but I was like, we have to go to Zool. And the day we went to Zool, they had a side project tap takeover.
What?
So I didn't even drink any Zool beer. I bought Zool beer to go, and then drank side project when I was there because they didn't have to go. Zool is. And I got to try them for the first time in Nashville because one of the breweries told me that this particular store has the fire. So I went to that store and checked that out. Yeah, Zool was killer. So have you guys worked with them?
Yeah.
We've never
Well, we never brewed
collabed
with
with
them,
them, but we went out for their festival a couple weeks ago.
Sick.
So
How was that? Killer.
Really good.
Such
Awesome.
I was pretty blown away just by how well executed it all was. Like,
Fantastic.
but also just so sweet. Like they did so much for the brewers, like so many parties and like a Bloody Mary bar and a mimosa bar and like everything you needed
Cute.
was in the room. It was just very like hospitable. But great beer, such a fun festival. And we were like really digging Knoxville as a little city. Just like
It was cute, eh?
small downtown, really walkable to everything. We were able to walk from our hotel to the parties, to the karaoke, to like where the festival was. It was just like, yeah. I feel like every time we ever visit somewhere, we're like, we could live here. We could live here.
Honestly,
You're doing awesome.
Great brewery, great little city.
Yeah, that mixtape, the PB and J mixtape they do is insane.
yes.
Yeah,
I did see that. I didn't try it, but I heard it looked pretty sick. Was that at the location? The one I think it was the Fifth Street. Is that the one where it was the one with it's got the car parks like on the slope down the back?
Yeah. So
that's the main like
spot. Yeah, a bunch of pinball machines and stuff in there. If you remember.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
And they got that big when you walk in on the left. There's that huge Zool sign painted on the wall.
Yeah.
Okay, that must be the same one then. Yeah, that was.
They have one somewhere. Another part of. I want to say like 20 minutes away.
They had a second one, and I just went to the one that came up in the thing. I didn't even really think about which one to go to. Yeah, it's a cool part of the world as far as like it's pretty reachable from here, obviously from you guys. Did you fly or did you drive?
We flew. It's like it's like a 12. It's a pretty decent drive, but like 12 hours. I don't know. From you, it might be that far or farther. I don't know.
I think it's like 11-ish if you went direct to Nashville. So yeah, basically the same. But we have a dog. We have a little dog. We bring him everywhere. So for us, the drive is like a part of it. And I kind of like, if it wasn't for the drive, I feel like I just get to understand the change, even though it's on a highway, just get to see the changing landscape. And then you learn a bit about it. I don't know. For me, this is fascinating. I grew up on the other side of the world and watching American movies and TV shows and music and da. So for me, it's like sick. It's fun to discover the different cultures, and then obviously being into beer. And we moved here because of like hip hop. We do rap stuff. So like seeing all of the different things that I like in the different areas, I'm like, this is cool. And just understanding, and then we find the breweries and you go to the different neighborhoods and find the best cafes. We're big on coffee. You guys big on coffee?
Oh yeah. We actually have a really good buddy in Dallas. He's from Australia. He's from Perth. He's from Perth.
From Perth, okay.
They own I think they have like 4 or 5 coffee shops, but it's all like Australian style coffee in a way. So it's like strong, fast service. Now we use a lot of their coffee in some of our stouts and stuff. And
what's the roast though? What's it called?
It's called LDU. So,
and we're like, is it Land Down Under? And they're like, no, that's not what it stands for. So
that's pretty funny.
But yeah, but just cool. LDU, they're great. And then we have another friend, Elijah, that owns Peaberry, like kind of South Dallas, another coffee shop. But we have a bunch of great coffee in Dallas.
Australian coffee bars. Honestly, that's cool. So from where I'm from, Melbourne, and Melbourne is where Third Wave Coffee was from. Funnily enough, I discovered it in Montreal. I didn't even drink it when I was there. I drank fucking hot chocolates like a wanker. But the Australian Third Wave style are very... It's because wow, they got a whole bunch of locations. Oh, this is fire, bro!
It's incredible.
They're really
such
cool.
Good people. It's so good.
This is okay. Thank you for telling me. This is
When you come to Dallas, you gotta go. You'll have to introduce you to him. His name's Adam. But
okay.
His brother also is here with him. And they kind of partners in the business and stuff. So they're awesome. So
that makes me so happy to hear.
I have someone we can like source beans from. And kind of work on coffee ideas with coffee beer ideas.
And he loves IPA. He's like, he basically won't drink a beer. I think he's so used to strong coffee. He's like, if I'm gonna drink a beer, it's got to count. He loves double IPAs. Like that's his jam. Like I don't think I've tried to offer.
Aussies are crazy.
He won't touch it. Yeah.
Aussies are insane. That's super fun. I love to see that. I like to see that when the Aussie cafes were like, we're in Savannah, Georgia. There was a series like an Aussie family had like a whole hospitality company that had like multiple cafes and restaurants and stuff that were all played off that. And That's unexpected as hell to be able to come across that. Is that a good segue for the final brew?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of dark coffee, I don't even know if there's coffee in it, but
I can't remember if there's coffee in this one. I don't think so.
let me tell you,
Um,
there is not.
No.
It doesn't
Almond-
matter. It looks like there is.
did the
almonds,
little
vanilla.
disco ball stay on? Oh, did it come off?
I didn't even see it in the box. Was there a disco ball on top?
Somewhere in the box. I like wrapped it with, so we always decorate our little wax tops or whatever with a different little decoration. And I sent you one with a disco ball that seemed like it was connected pretty well. It's somewhere in that box.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll take another look.
Hmm.
God damn it! I'm sorry.
I was hoping, no, I figured there was no way it was going to last. Shipment.
Sometimes they just throw the boxes. So
Yeah.
this is a 14% Imperial Stout aged for 24 months in Buffalo Trace bourbon barrels and conditioned on toasted almonds and Madagascar vanilla beans. Impeccable. Also, I want to salute you for the small packaging. I'm a proponent of small bottles for big ass stouts. It's cool. I can take a big one to the face if I need to, which I typically do on Wednesdays. Wednesdays is usually my big beer day.
Okay, nice.
If I'm not doing a pod, because it's the only. I don't know about you guys. Maybe it's different. I don't know how you drink, but what I learned over COVID, I don't drink Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I call it like Big Beer Wednesday, which is I would usually do a warm up beer of like 8 to 10%, and then all the big ones are like I don't know 10 to 15 or something. Then I'd have those ones. My girlfriend used to share them with me, not so much anymore. So I've got a bit of a tolerance to be able to drink that, and it's sort of like I don't even start drinking till after dinner. So it's like a late night, real it's like a treat. Feels like a special treat.
No, it's kind of fun to look forward to, like a little midweek.
Yeah, midweek thing, and to sort of I imagine if my cellar's pretty crazy, I imagine you guys have a bonkers cellar, and it's just stuff that
there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, there's always too much. So.
And I feel like we are such lager drinkers now that anytime we're drinking really at home, not always. I feel like we still do some hazies, some stuff, but like really, I would say more than anything, both of us are just drinking
mostly lagers.
And so maybe we need to start a big beer Wednesday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I found it to be it quickly became my favorite time of the week just because of the focus on it, and then you can sort of take it in without being worried you're drinking too much or whatever, because you're not doing anything else to influence it,
true.
Mm-hmm.
And just to get through it. Otherwise, like, when are you gonna go, and when's the chance, like, based on COVID, like all of a sudden you got all these 750 ml bottles that are difficult to share with somebody. Even those ones, that's my biggest problem. I do drink those solo, but it kind of feels like a bit of a chore. This is 375.
Yeah.
12 ounce.
330.
375.
Yeah.
Something like that. The half pour.
Yeah. We kind of took a note from Prairie, who's like kind of our neighbors.
Yes.
It's always like their format.
Are they in Texas?
They're in Oklahoma, so they're
pretty close.
Yeah, they're right. Okay. They're like 3-4 hours away.
Gotcha.
But I always liked their 12-ounce bottles, and then whenever we bought like a bottling line, it was basically like we can set it up for whatever bottles you want to use, and we knew we were only going to be doing like single barrel, like pretty small volumes of these beers. So, the smaller the format, the more bottles we could kind of get, out of each batch. So,
is that better value for you guys as a producer?
I mean, better value, but I guess better, like, sometimes for the consumer too. It's like, all right, well, the first bottle release we did Bombers, and we got 100. Whereas if we do these, we can get like almost double.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and we have a membership that we don't limit the amount of bottles that they're allowed to get, and so I feel like they'll buy up 100,
most of the good ones,
and so then we'll release the other like 2/3 or something after that. But I think if we had bigger bottles, they would sell out. I mean,
we wouldn't have it.
So I just think it's like a little nicer to give people a chance to grab it. I mean, and we always have it on draft too, but just people, I feel like especially for stouts, want a bottle, want something to hold on to.
Yeah, you want to take it home, and there's something about the experience of uncapping the wax and like just cracking it open. You're like, oh yeah, I don't know, there's something a little more special about it that like that then the smaller ones allow you to feel like this feels to me like a single serving, as opposed to
Yeah.
what am I going to do? Like,
Exactly. Yeah, hold on to it.
yeah, I feel like I might need to just pause for a second because I thought I could do it without a knife. I thought the thing on the top was like is this a pull tab at the top or is it?
No, that was what's left of the disco ball. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. No, please don't apologize. Do you mind if we pause for 1 sec? I'm just going to grab a knife and just cut the thing because I'm trying.
For sure.
No problem.
Yes. All right. 1 sec. Boom. All right. We got it off. We got it ready. We got it. Okay. So this is Dark Disco. Is this some special release? Is this something that you do regularly?
That it would be a one-off in a way. Like,
okay.
It's like all of our barrel aged beers are like just
kind of one-offs.
They're always pretty small batch. We do them regularly, as in like every 4 to 6 weeks. We try. I think
that's pretty regular.
But yeah, it's just like one barrel typically. Sometimes we'll blend more than
it's
one.
Pretty small volume. Kind of helps us stretch our barrel program, which is like, they're only taproom beers. So like, we're not sending these beers. This and Ube are kind of like our mostly taproom exclusive stuff where you gotta come to us to get these. But yeah, it's just one of those. Sense. Yeah, we try to let some barrels age. Play around with cool adjuncts, fresh adjuncts. This one is toasted almonds and Madagascar vanilla.
Macadamia.
Is it macadamia? No, I think it's just almonds. Yeah, I think it's just almonds.
Toasted almonds, according to the bottle.
Yeah, toasted almonds and vanilla. So I feel like vanilla is a must in pretty much all of these beers, and then kind of lays the foundation with the bourbon barrel, and then I feel like we kind of wear out coconut quite a bit. Like I love coconut, and like people love coconut, and it's honestly like a very predictable adjunct. But then nuts are really cool. Like they like almonds are good, hazelnuts, pistachio,
coffee a lot, chocolate a lot.
Yeah,
but it is funny because we've only done it one time. We want to do it again, but we did something called stout service a couple months ago. But I'm sure you've heard of Kolsch service, where people come around and bring those like whatever they're called.
They're kind of like little
they called Stantons or something.
Yes. Some with
Kolsch glasses.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and find the damn name. Someone told me the other day, and I always forget.
I
but
know.
it's like a glass. It's like a little like
really cute.
Kind of like a lazy Susan sort of
Stangen. Stangen. Is that how you say it? Stangen? That sounds weird, doesn't it?
I feel like it is that, or maybe I've just always read it. I don't know, but I loved the idea. Or we loved the idea of that, where it's just like kind of like that special hospitality, like bringing beers to you as opposed to people going up to the bar and like never ending, just like much more kind of party, almost like dinner party feel. But we've only made, I think, 2 Kolsches ever. I really appreciate the style, we appreciate it, but just for whatever reason, like that isn't necessarily like a very like celestial.
We don't make a ton of it,
and so we decided to do it with our barrel aged stouts, which is very different. We didn't do the 12-ounce, 6 whatever Stangens, 10 ounce. We did little baby pours. I think they were little 4-ounce. But we, my sister and I were just like walking around pouring all these different kind of comeback beers that we hadn't had on in a while. But it was funny because I realized how much we use coconut, because I think we had 4 options, and I think 3 of the 4 had coconut. And I mean, they're all excellent, but I was like, oh no, maybe we need to start
switching up a bit.
Every time we put coconut, it gives it like an oily thickness, a nice sweetness, some depth, and
it just goes so well, like with it.
Yeah.
With the almonds on
wrong.
I don't know how warm. I don't know how warm your stout is, but yeah, I feel like it's like
it's reasonable. Normally it's been in the cooler, so it's not like ice cold anymore because I had it in the fridge, so it would have been really cold. So I feel like it's kind of like perfect drinking temperature right now.
Cool.
Like I don't know what the 8 degrees Celsius maybe. Yeah, guys, cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
The nose is crazy.
Yeah, like nutty, almost like caramely.
But like flavor wise, almonds really come through on the flavor. But I feel like we definitely have learned a lot and gotten. I feel like we're better at adjuncting that. Where it's like the authentic stuff, we can kind of pull out the stops and it's always real nuts, and all that stuff. And it's like it sometimes like the nuts, you may not pick up what nut flavor it is, but it's like it sometimes adds like body or like mouthfeel or rounds the beer out a little bit. So I feel like almonds. This is maybe, I don't know if we've done just almonds by itself really, but I like the way it came out. Like it's it's nice and approachable and not the beer's, it's still a bourbon barrel aged stout, but it's it's a desserty kind of like pastry-ish kind of drink. So
going back to Trader Joe's, have you ever had the chocolate covered almonds with the turbinado sugar?
No,
I don't know. That's what this
like
tastes like, but it's like they're like kind of gritty from all the sugar, but it's like dark chocolate and like
really good.
They're so good. But it's like that's what this beer reminded me of.
I'm taking a look now. The slightly coated dark chocolate almonds. What's slightly coated? That's weird. There's a specific type of sugar.
I feel like it's like turbinado.
It's like a more like a kind of a brown, unrefined sugar, like a raw sugar in a way.
Thick.
Yeah, it's a bigger crystals.
Next time
and it definitely has more like molasses, like more flavor than like your regular sugar. So
okay, you can get them on Amazon. Damn.
Oh, really?
I see. Yeah, but they don't ship to Canada. But it's okay. It's okay. I'll figure that out. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, I see what you're saying. There's almost like a little crust. Around it.
Strip the buffalo. You got to pick up a. They won't last. Get back to.
Even in the car.
Yeah, it's a good car snack.
This is so duly noted. Okay, I love that. There's nothing. Okay, I see. That's fascinating. They kind of look like just like a normal chocolate coated almond, but like they've been like added stuff on top, almost like being burnt with a flame. Turbinado sugar. What is that?
I think it's
like I was saying, it's like a raw, like think of like brown sugar, but like not as like fluffy. It's like it's more hard and more like it's like just more like just like a raw sugar, like hasn't been refined or anything like that.
The sea salt of sugars or something.
Yeah, Himalayan sea salt.
Gotcha. So they kind of like run like that. Okay, yeah. The nut. I know this was bottled in September, so this is like actually quite fresh. For a stout, and someone told me like the other day that one of the main things that drop if you sit on stouts too much is nuts. Any type of nuts typically drop pretty soon. And obviously a lot of us probably have an unintentional problem. I imagine you guys do too. You just get stuff and you put it aside. You don't really think what's in it.
Yeah.
And you're
funny.
I
feel like for years people are like, I gotta add it to my cellar. I gotta sit on my stout for 3 years before I could do a.
Yeah, and I'm like, we already aged it. We already aged it for 2 years for you.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't think the glass.
So it's I really think that it's a pretty well aged beer, and then it's kind of the adjuncts are fresh right now. Like vanilla seems to age really well, and nuts can kind of fall off. Coffee can get kind of weird in barrel aged beers as it ages. Like it gets kind of peppery and like
the green pepper.
Yeah, it gets, I feel like coffee gets kind of strange. Where if we go heavy on coffee in one of these beers, it like doesn't hold up.
I know what you're saying,
but
coffee can be an interesting one. I've definitely been told that should move on early. But this is super nice with the nut forward. Is not something I get to try a lot because I think it's like, once again, not like I'm like, let me age it. It's just more like, I don't know, there's a ton in here. I'm just going to get it and put it aside and I'll get to it when I get to it. Not realizing how quick that those flavor profiles can sort of dip. And then, you don't really get that optimal experience. As you said, you've already aged it for those 2 years and the conditioning is a little more of a short-term thing. Where those flavors can essentially dissipate.
It'd be like an IPA, like as it ages, those hops kind of the freshness of them kind of fade. So it's I'm trying to tell it to some people too, like drink it. You don't. I'm not going to force you to drink both your your 2 bottles like immediately, but honestly, they're I think they
they hold up well, but they're probably better, fresher.
Yeah,
but not that.
Right. Do you have a time frame that you prefer people to drink them in, or is it kind of like whatever? Like just drink them as soon as you can.
I'd say drink them at your comfort. But yeah, I do think when we bottle them, like those adjuncts are like the best they're gonna be in a way. So like
Gotcha.
some of them might meld better with a little more time, but yeah, I feel like this one, yeah, is drinking pretty nice right now. Like as far as the nuts, yeah, it's presenting the almonds there. So,
which is once again like saying that the main thing to me that's standing out about this is I just feel like my main problem is not drinking these damn things sooner than later. And I was actually happy when I saw that it was packaged in September. I was like, oh, I can't get to drink like a big ass stout like at a time where it's closer to fresh, like only a couple months out. I see exactly what you guys are saying. Like it's super nice. It's not like also syrupy thick for 14%. Like it's definitely big and decadent and bold and velvety, but it's also not like, cake batter.
Yeah, yes. For sure.
And is that like by design? Did you guys have something in mind when it came to?
Yeah, kind of. I feel like our stouts are. We don't always target just like, especially since we're going to adjunct them. Like we don't always target like just the thickest, most syrupy stout. Like, I feel like we're looking for like everything we put on the label like to be present, and then also like I feel like the the adjuncting portion is like probably the hardest part, but also like I think it's like I was saying, I think we've definitely gotten better at it where it's like whatever's in there, you're gonna pick up those notes of it. So I think sometimes we go more adjunct forward than like sweetness forward, I guess, or like going for the thickest boys in the world. So even though I know like I hear from some guys they like some guys that were just obsessed with like that, like the thickest stout you could find, have kind of like gravitated a little away from that. But
I think there still are people. I mean, I guess there are people every style that want different things, but yeah, I feel like there's still the ones that are like not thick enough. But I would say, most of our drinkers, and maybe us too, just I know when we drink stouts, like I don't want necessarily this super super thick syrupy. Sometimes it's incredible.
Yeah,
depending. Yeah. But like, maybe just you tend to brew like
and I think
what we
it would usually I'd say like if this was like a coconut stout, I think it would perceive as like even thicker or whatever. So yeah, I feel like we get a little like sweetness like enhanced on those ones. So but it
makes sense.
But yeah, also I always joke because someone's like, oh, you guys don't boil for like 12 hours or 24 hours. Like, no, it's like I'm a dad. I have to go home. Like I can't run that thing that long. So.
Which I remember listening, I forget to what podcast, but Weathered Souls, rest in peace.
Yes, what a shame.
But yeah, him talking about
Marcus.
Like 24-hour boil or something, like something insane.
It's pretty crazy.
Which I think it's the standard for a lot of guys, honestly.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that's wild. But I think like he was, at least at this point, like it was just him. And so he was like brewing it, sleeping there. But like, yeah.
Some guys might have
their stouts were phenomenal. So
So.
Oh yeah, you guys are close, San Antonio, right? Yeah.
Yeah, not too far.
What a shame. Yeah, that sucks. I know my boy Jared Immortalis. Always see him post at like on stories like 4 a.m. like by myself in the brewery doing the boil for a stout. Like,
oh my gosh. I
think they go a little like pretty hard with it. I feel like that's catering to one market, and then this is like to from the stuff I've been drinking lately. I feel like this is refreshing in that it's not so intense. I feel like every startup, because once again, I think I mentioned my girlfriend used to split it with me, but not as much lately. Calories, of course. And on my big beer Wednesdays, like I've gotten used to drinking. Usually, I would have like most of these. This is why this size is so amazing to me. Like usually, it's at least 500 ml. Like for the half-size bottles, if not the set, and then I'm able to still have something beforehand, and then have one of these, and it's fine. But yeah, a lot of them are like, this is definitely a lot more approachable than some of the more intense ones. But the flavors are still there, the body is still there. I'm getting the bourbon, the oak, like everything in between, without it being like like my stomach has got a concrete brick in it type of thing, which is once again, it'd be fine if I split it with people. It's just because I'm drinking these things to myself, I find it a little rough.
And I wonder
Sometimes
if people are veering that way just because bottle shares aren't as much of a thing as they
Great
were.
point.
Where like, yeah, anyone can have like a 1-2 ounce like
Yeah.
pour of all these like different thick ones, but I feel like not everyone, but a lot of people are drinking on their own now or drinking with one other person. And yeah, like
That's
it's just
such a good point. Yeah. Maybe that's become a bit more of a thing because there was like, and even the lack of 750s, which I personally would prefer to not see as many 750s. They were great, obviously, back in the day, and it felt like a special occasion, and everyone was splitting. You bring them out for holidays, and
Yeah.
da da da. But I just mean, like, why can't you have this on a Wednesday? And a nice, like you said, a nice midweek. It feels like it breaks my drought, drink till Sunday and have Monday, Tuesday off, and then back to Wednesday. And instead of getting into the grind, I don't want to call it a grind, but you go to lager, you go some haze, and you go and you have a bunch of beers. Like I could just have like one or two, depending on what it is. If it's the 750, I typically wouldn't have something beforehand because that's plenty. But just being able to get through these beers that I've spent good money on, they're sitting in the cellar, want to make sure they get drunk and it's consumed, and it's nice to have something that's not like a whole thing, and I just come out of it, I'm just like heavy breathing, like I just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just, and that's no shade. It's like I think it's once again this is a product of my problem, like we were saying, like some people, I'm drinking it alone, and I always be like, hey babe, try this. Always make sure she tries something because I know she'll appreciate it, but she doesn't want to drink too much of it. So it is a little nice for me. How do you guys feel about this is pretty rare, but like 8-ounce packaging for the larger ones?
Oh yeah,
so cute for the larger ones. And then I feel like I've seen like the little baby loggers and stuff too, which I also love.
the
Like
cans or the bottles.
the bottles, I love that. But like no, the little like cans. I'm thinking of there's some Midwest brewery that does these little cans, and I'm just thinking branding. Their branding is so cute. It's called like Little Buddy or something, like colorful, fun little. But just
I stouts.
No, this one
it's
is
a lager, Hopewell.
But I have
But
seen.
there was I'm
some
blinking on the.
people
On the
That's cute.
It's so
there was
cute.
like a brewery. I feel like it was a New York brewery that they were also a distillery. I'm totally blanking on their name, but I feel like they were the first guys I saw doing actually the little. I think they were 8-ounce cans, like the.
And they were stout.
Doing stouts in there, so.
Like the little buddy ones where they're actually like almost squished.
Yeah, it's like it's a half. It's like
12s.
Yeah, they're little. I think that's honestly a good format. Yeah, if we could get like an 8-ounce bottle, or a small one, it'd be fun.
That'd be sick. Yeah. Have you seen? You guys know The Answer in Richmond, Virginia? Yeah. So we were there in the summer, which also reminded me of the restaurant you're at, Mekong, which is the beer bar there. Yeah. Which obviously attached. So we were at The Answer, and they had these 8-ounce cans that looked like a mini spray paint type of thing, and basically it's this tiny. I've got a couple in there. Do I have it here? Because they were just the coolest fucking cans I've ever seen. Do I not? No, maybe I didn't keep it. But they were like tiny little thin cans, and they had this lid, and it had a like a sticker over it, and I didn't know what to do. Do you like lift the lid up? But I just played with it and it twisted. It was almost like a twist top, but didn't look like it. And it was like, I swear I kept one. I thought I kept it around.
I've seen the cans that have the like.
Oh, yeah. So like that, and then this is like a
cute.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
Like that kind of mechanism at the top, and then it's just I didn't know what it was, and then you can see that the tape went over the top, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, do I leverage this side? Is it like do I need like something to put it open? And I was like, I'd never seen anything like this, and these were all 12% stouts. I got a few of them. I only had this one so far, and I was like, oh, this is like the sickest packaging I've seen, because it wasn't just totally like a ring pool. Once I imagine that this is, I don't know if reusable is the word, but
growler fill kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
Oh,
It
I
wasn't
really like that. That's yeah. I love any kind of packaging that's a little bit different and
a little bit
unique.
fun, right?
Yeah, it's really
Same.
fun.
And I just hadn't seen that before, and I just thought, oh, that was a cool way. And that was like we talked about that a bunch on the pod, and I mostly because before these Big Beer Wednesdays, I was like, I just had no way to consume these products, and I was like, they're just like banking up in the cellar because I can't help myself, and you keep buying them or keep acquiring them and whatever. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I don't want any of this stuff to die. I know it's all impeccably made stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that was my only way to consume it. And then to get used to having, because the ones here, everything in Canada is 11.9%, right? Obviously.
Yeah. Right.
And then everything in America just puts what the fuck it is 15.5, 18. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, how am I even going to handle this? And then, oh God, it's not so bad. I'm okay. So I don't know if it's because I have a full stomach or whatever, but
Yeah.
I figured a way to get into it, but I just feel like it would make it a little more. I don't know. Maybe it's just me though, because I have seen there's a faction of people who are just like big stouts. They want like big, full, whether it's the tall can or a 750 of the biggest beer possible. I was like, all right, fucking champion. All right, good
Yeah.
for you.
We're talking to some of the guys from Mesorum, and I think they were saying that they maybe even named a beer 11.9, or they were like some joke or 11.9. They put it in quotes or something because you're not allowed to have 12 and beyond. But they're like, obviously, like our stouts are like
So much more
more
than
than
that.
that. But yeah, we're just like, that's
11.9.
so funny.
Yeah.
Like 11.
Allegedly, if the AGCO is listening.
Yeah, talking about Prairie earlier. I remember, we were at their tap room, and they have like an Oklahoma City like smaller brewery, and they were talking about some regulars there that only drink stouts, and these guys drink so much stouts. I don't know how much you have to drink, but they said like, oh, this guy, he has diabetes now. He can't even drink beer.
Oh my God.
And I was like, how often does it happen? They're like, oh, there's at least like 10 guys, that can't drink anymore because they drink so many of those big stouts. I'm like, that's wild. Like they're good, but like it'd be so hard to drink volume of those, like some people just, it must have been their jam. Like never had anything like it before and just couldn't get enough of it. So
wow.
yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
So
That's
much
terrifying.
Yeah, crazy. So so take it easy on those 750. All right, I'm worried about you. No,
Yeah. You should be worried. No, I think that was a general carry message brought to you by Celestial Beerworks.
Yeah.
It's a crazy world with the stout thing. There's when the people are into stouts, they're into stouts, and they go like often a little too hard, and they do those big ridiculous bottle shares where there's like got the kill shot, and it's just like this wall of beers. I'm like, there was 7 of you. How did you drink this much?
There was at our Cowboys and Aliens party, like cleaning up afterwards, and there was like some guys doing a bottle share with a bunch of our bottles, and there was at least 15 bottles opened, and they were all empty. Like they were all gone.
Yeah,
like
just a tiny little group of guys at that table.
Like, they must have.
How did y'all do it?
Yeah.
On top of the other stuff. Yeah, bottle shares are the most dangerous thing in the planet.
Yeah,
they're so insane.
Bottle share at Beer Fest, basically.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Dude, this is why I don't do those things. I feel like it's like beer festivals are never the most optimal way to try beers, because I feel like you're just smashing them down. You don't remember anything.
Oh yeah.
And you just get lit, and then someone cries and someone fights, and it's just
for sure. 100%.
I'd rather just try the beer in a situation like this. We're sitting down, we're chatting, drinking a few other beers, and it's totally chill. It's awesome. But guys, honestly, I know we've gone significantly over what we discussed originally, but this has been so fire. I just feel like I really got a great idea of what Celestial is all about, and the beers that you guys do, from the crispies, the haze, the stouts, the smoothies, and the fun stuff, the branding, the approach, being ahead of the game, doing a style in a region that wasn't really used to it yet, and kind of like paving the way for that, or in that early wave, which is, I don't know, I think it's super admirable. I think it's brave to be taking the chance on something like this. And I know it's beer or whatever, but like, if you know beer, you know that And if you knew Texas in 2018 when you guys opened, and not that I'm saying I do, being there for a week or whatever, but I'm like, I think I get the point. This is not a haze mecca, and for you guys to be opening up in Halloween doing that, I just think that's so sick. Congratulations on everything. So it's like 6 years.
6.
6.
Yeah.
Just past 6 years a couple weeks ago, and that's a huge milestone. You know, particularly in this day and age with the way beer's going, and and getting through the pandemic, and keeping people coming out to the tap room, and keeping people engaged with the interesting releases and the branding and the social, and I just think what you guys are doing is so sick. I think you guys should be super proud of everything you've achieved, and like I imagine there's big things for the future that you guys are planning, being that you're like, fuck man, we got through all of this, like we can kind of do anything. I mean,
definitely trying to keep it, trying to stick to what we know, and like keep trying to innovate, and quality and consistency still like I feel like the main thing we try to focus on too. So it's like
still be who we are, but like, try to push the envelope as much as we can, while still being Celestial.
No, it's real nice of you though. We appreciate it. So
this was so fun. It was so nice talking to you. It's so crazy, like hearing the podcast so many times, and then like hearing your voice.
No, but I think also, and get to hear how you were introduced to Celestial, and like I didn't realize that. I thought I thought it was another form, but it's cool that via New York, so really cool. So
I love that. And to me, this is even cooler because this to me represents like a brewery. Like I don't believe I've interviewed anyone that that happened this way, where I've discovered through my travels, literally right over the border. It's like I have Nexus. Are you guys familiar with Nexus? It's like the card thing. Oh, it's the best thing ever. I don't know if I even should say it on the pod. Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's the Canada America like fast lane thing. Yeah. There's a private bridge here. You can just go fucking boom, and it's like 10 minutes. It's like there's no one ever. It takes 45 seconds across the border. They don't ask you any questions. It's the greatest thing that I ever did. As soon as I got my Canadian citizenship, I'm just like boom. It's only for Canadians and Americans, and it just makes it so much easier. And then it's it's right over the border, so I'm able to get to these places to discover a lot more. And to me, that I just felt like I hadn't been moved enough by any other brewery that I had discovered to reach out to be like, hey, I'd love to do that. And I also want to prop you on being an owner of a social media agency, the fact that you guys were engaging with someone who was posting about you. I think that's really important for breweries, and just to maybe emphasize that for folks who are listening or watching, that like if people do engage with you, like share what they're doing. If they got a nice enough post, or like thank them, or whatever it is, just to get that engagement. I would say it to any business. I just think that's really important. You guys did that immediately, and it was so Molly, you just got such a great friendly approach to everything there. And that's why I was like, oh, maybe they might be down, because I'm always a little hesitant to ask an American brewery to come on, because drinking the same beers, which we learned over COVID for these, is like a big part of it. And I don't always want to like, hey guys, I like your stuff. Hey, do you want to be on? And we got to do this. And you guys were just so receptive to it, and I just appreciate it. And I just feel like once again, the timing was so perfect, because you've got the beer on your side from Third Moon. The Third Moon beer is out here. If you can still get it, if you can't get it, then trade for it. I just think it's really awesome, and I feel like you guys are another brewery that needs to be aggressively on the bucket list of any Canadian or anywhere beer traveler who's going to be cruising around the States. If you're going to Texas, God damn it, go to Dallas and get out to Celestia. I think it's crazy. So I think you guys are awesome. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate you both.
Yeah, we had a blast.
So fun. Yeah.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Such a pleasure. So we'll wrap up off air. So we'll finish it up here, and then we'll finish up there. But where can everybody find Celestial online and in person?
So online, our main website is just celestialbeerworks.com. But then we're much more active on social media, primarily Instagram, under @celestialbeerworks. I really try with TikTok. I'm really trying. I'm a grandma. I'm trying. I'll put up my video.
It's a whole thing.
For some reason, it does not compute in my mind. But then also on Facebook, just Celestial Beerworks, pretty easy. And then, if you're flying into Dallas or driving in, we're pretty central, super close to Love Field, the Southwest Airport. really close to the Dart Rail. If you're staying and want to just take a train, come over, drink. But yeah, we'd love everyone to come visit us, follow us, check us out.
Yeah,
I love it. It's amazing, guys. Make sure you check it out. This is definitely on the list, and Texas is very high on our list for next year. So I'm excited. I'm extra excited now because now I know that a level like I don't know a ton about Texas beer, but if you guys are obviously you guys are there and doing a beer at a level of all the other stuff that we're drinking, to me that's super exciting because not every city has a Celestial. That's what you want.
I feel like it's come a long way.
Some good stuff, eh?
We have a lot of
there's
friends.
some pretty killer breweries in Dallas and Austin, and I mean, really, throughout the state. It's quite.
It's a good time.
If you want to drink and if you want to eat, as well, there's plenty of food. So
Texas barbecue, nothing beats that.
All the fun stuff. Oh yeah. So
that's the best.
Come on down. If you're coming,
hell yeah! Make sure you reach out to them, guys. Both you, thank you very, very, very much. Once again, stick around. I'll just quickly wrap it up, and we'll wrap up there. But Molly, Matt, thank you so much for your time, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, and hit that notification bell so you know when the new year drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast. Check out the long form audio so you can hear legendary humans like Molly and Matt talk about craft beer every week. Give us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts just for these lovely humans right here. And we'll see you in the next episode, guys. Cheers. Peace.